Chapter 593. Despicable Lu Hantian. Nearly 100 geniuses looked at the sloppy beggar beside Zhuoan as if they were looking at an idiot. Who is this guy? He actually dared to tell Marquis Lu to get down. Is his brain flooded with water? What's wrong with Zhuoan? Why did he bring a lunatic here? Many geniuses in the square began to whisper and discuss. Who is Lu Nantian? He is the #1 expert in Muqin County, and a powerful fourth revered expert. This sloppy beggar actually dared to speak like this. It seems like he is really courting death. Lu Nantian was not the slightest bit angry. Instead, his body trembled. This voice, this tone, it was so familiar. Could this person be him? Thinking of this, Lu Nantian quickly walked down and arrived in front of Lu Hantian. His sharp eyes stared at the sloppy man in front of him. His expression became more dignified and surprised, and his judgment became more certain. This person is Finnish. If Marquis Lu gets angry, this person is dead for sure. I'm afraid that Zhuoan is also finished. Bringing such a vulgar person is simply courting death. Let's see how these two will face Marquis Lu's anger. In the square, many geniuses looked at Lu Hantian and Zhuoan with ridicule. There were even some who took pleasure in their misfortune. Zhuoan's performance in the Battle of the Vitality Tower was too stunning. As the saying goes, the hunter will shoot the bird that sticks out. Naturally, many geniuses were jealous of Zhuoan. If Zhuoan had come from a superpower, these geniuses wouldn't be so jealous of him. Instead, they would take it as a matter of course. However, Zhuoan just so happened to be a genius from a low-level city. Many powers looked down on him as he came from the weakest low-level city. With such a lowly background, he was able to soar through the Origin Chi Tower, surpassing countless geniuses and breaking numerous records. This was undoubtedly a slap to the faces of many high-level powers. A lowly genius that no one placed in their eyes had actually surpassed them. How could this not arouse hatred and jealousy? Therefore, these people were very willing to see Zhuoan suffer. In fact, they were very eager to see it happen. Big brother. Is it really you? You actually came out of the Blood Devil legacy? Suddenly, Lu Nantian grabbed Lu Hantian's shoulders with both hands. His expression became extremely emotional, and his dignified eyes were brimming with tears. This scene caused everyone in the square to be stunned. What was going on? Big brother? Lu Nantian actually called this sloppy beggar big brother? Was there a mistake? This unkempt man looked like a beggar from head to toe. How could he be the elder brother of Lu Nantian, a county lord? At this moment, everyone was thinking that Lu Nantian must have made a mistake. He must have made a mistake, or he was just messing around. Too mushy. Move aside. Although you are my brother, I don't have that kind of hobby. Get lost. Lu Hantian's words were extremely hateful. The beggar relaxed his shoulders and hurriedly retreated more than 10 meters. He looked at Lu Nantian with disdain. Instantly, countless people fell to the ground. This beggar was too despicable. What kind of person was Lu Nantian? It was an honor for him to pat you on the shoulder. He actually showed such an expression. Many people in the square almost couldn't bear it and went up to slap this beggar. Haha. Big brother, you really haven't changed at all. You are still the Lu Hantian from back then. Haha. Lu Nantian didn't care. Lu Hantian's behavior showed that he didn't treat him as an outsider. Hiss. Lu Hantian? The peerless genius of Muqin County 100 years ago, Lu Hantian? Once Lu Nantian's words came out, countless people in the square sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't believe that this guy in front of them was the peerless genius that countless geniuses worshipped. This really blinded everyone's eyes. The originally grand image of Lu Hantian in countless people's imaginations had completely collapsed at this moment. All that was left in their minds was this old beggar without any image to speak of. 5 days ago, the abnormality in the Yuan Chi Tower should have been caused by you and Zhuoan, right? Lu Nantian said with a smile. Lu Hantian nodded and quickly pulled Zhuoan over. He said, "It seems like you also know Zhuoan. However, this kid is now my brother. In the future, he will also be your brother. You have to treat him well." Zhuoan calls Nantian second brother. Black lines immediately appeared on Zhuowen's face as he looked at the somewhat awkward Lu Nantian in front of him. He was filled with helplessness. Lu Nantian was the lord of a county. There weren't many people who could call such a person brother. Zhuowen couldn't help but feel that it was a little strange that a mere ultimate emperor realm cultivator would actually call Lu Nantian brother. What? You don't want to? Lu Hantian glared at him and coldly snorted. Lu Nantian shook his head. He is very clear about Lu Hantian's temperament, so he smiled and cupped his fists towards Zhuowen and said, Zhuowen, since you are Big Brother's brother, then you are also my Nantian's brother. You are younger than me, so I will call you third brother. The conversation between Lu Hantian and Lu Nantian was naturally heard by many geniuses in the square. Immediately, all of them rolled their eyes. What the hell was going on? Zhuowen had become Lu Nantian's brother just like that. Wasn't this too much of a joke? All of the geniuses felt their balls ache. Are these brats the ones you are preparing to participate in the Battle of the Nine Counties? Lu Hantian's gaze landed on the square as he pointed at the group of geniuses and said arrogantly. Lu Nantian was as calm as still water as he smiled. Yes. The geniuses in this year's Origin Chi Tower battle are much stronger than the previous one. I believe that our Muqin County will achieve a good result in this Battle of the Nine Counties. Perhaps more than 10 geniuses will enter the Azure Emperor ranking. Yes, indeed, but since you have trained these brats like this, you should be their master. Come, I am your master's big brother. In any case, I am also your martial uncle. Come and pay your respects to your martial uncle. Lu Hantian was here to act cheap again. He took a few steps and stood on the square. After a quarter of an hour, he made several poses. Finally, he chose a pose that he thought was the most handsome and stood there waiting for the geniuses to pay their respects. All of the geniuses were speechless. This Lu Hantian was too cheap. They really wanted to go up and give him a slap, but they didn't dare. Even Lu Nantian didn't dare to be impudent in front of Lu Hantian. Obviously, Lu Hantian was also a fourth venerable expert. Forget it. Lu Hantian was a peerless genius in the past. It was only right for them to pay their respects to him. Greetings, Martial Uncle Lu. The group of geniuses had bitter faces. They could only comfort themselves in their hearts. Then, they unwillingly paid their respects to Lu Hantian. This is the benefit of being handsome. Life is as lonely as snow. Lu Hantian smiled mischievously, then shook his head. His face revealed a lonely and pained expression, which made everyone's face twitch unnaturally. Also, this Zhuowen is my brother. Speaking of which, he is also your martial uncle. Come, pay your respects to Zhuowen. Lu Hantian didn't give up. He quickly pulled Zhuowen over and grinned at the geniuses in the square. His smile was as lewd as it could be. F***ck. It was fine if they paid their respects to you, but this Zhuowen was younger than them. Although he was strong, he was still considered as their peer. How could they pay their respects to Zhuowen? Everyone froze and began to hesitate. They couldn't accept paying their respects to Zhuowen. What? You don't want to pay your respects? Are you not giving me, Lu Hantian, any face? Lu Hantian's face turned cold. An extremely terrifying pressure was emitted. Instantly, everyone in the square felt as if there was a mountain pressing down on their backs. Everyone's face was filled with fear. This Lu Hantian was too terrifying. Just the pressure he emitted was enough to make them unable to stand up. Greetings, Martial Uncle Zhuo. In the square, everyone was helpless. They could only lower their bodies and pay their respects to Zhuowen. This Lu Hantian was strong and shameless. It was their bad luck to meet such a martial uncle. On the other side of the square, Lu Nantian's eyes shone brightly. When Lu Hantian had emitted his pressure, even he had been a little unsteady. It seemed that his elder brother's cultivation hadn't regressed during the hundreds of years of the Blood Devil inheritance. His strength was definitely above his own. Lu Hantian revealed a satisfied expression. Just as he was about to bring Zhuowen and Lu Nantian into the inner hall to discuss the matters of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, a group of 10 people suddenly entered the square. The person in the lead was dressed in luxurious purple clothes. There was a trace of killing intent on his face as he hurried into the square. Zhuoan recognized this person. It was the second prince of the house of Marquis Qin, Lu Yongsheng. Beside him was the pale-faced Lu Yuanhua. Behind the two of them was a group of generals in armor. Each of them had a terrifying aura. They were all experts who had reached the ultimate emperor realm. Lu Yongsheng and Lu Yuanhua quickly walked to Lu Nantian's side. Lu Yongsheng glared coldly at Zhuoan and said to Lu Nantian, "Lord Father, not only did these two people trespass into our house of Marquis Qin, they also injured 4 elders and 3rd brother. Their actions are vile and audacious. These 2 people deserve to die. Lord Father, please uphold justice for us." As soon as Lu Yongsheng said this, the atmosphere in the square immediately quieted down. Everyone stared at Lu Yongsheng's group with strange gazes. It was as if they were watching a clown perform. If Lu Yongsheng knew that the beggar he was accusing was Lu Hantian, how would he feel? Lu Yongsheng also noticed the strange gazes of the people around him and frowned slightly. Although he didn't understand the meaning behind their expressions, he didn't care. In fact, he was already suppressing a belly full of anger. This Zhuoan was too presumptuous. Although he was surprised by Zhuoan's appearance, this person was too daring. Not only did he defeat him and Lu Yuanhua in the Origin Qi Pagoda, but now he even came to the house of Marquis Qin to cause trouble. If Lu Yongsheng didn't get rid of this Zhuoan today, it would be difficult to relieve the hatred in Lu Yongsheng's heart. A junior still dares to be so arrogant. Come. Since you think we deserve to die, come and chop me. Yes, chop here. Remember to chop accurately. Don't miss. Lu Hantian began to act shamelessly again. He sneered and pointed at his neck, boasting shamelessly. His arrogance was much more arrogant than Lu Yongsheng's. Lu Yongsheng was stunned. He didn't expect this beggar to be so infuriating. He coldly snorted and said, "You said it. If I accidentally kill you, then don't blame me." Chapter 594. What happened in the past, Father? Why are you stopping me? At this moment, LV Yongsheng was looking at Lu Nantian with a puzzled expression. The one who had stopped him was Lu Nantian. "Kneel. Apologize." Lu Nantian's expression was solemn as he spat out these words, causing LV Yongsheng and the others to be dumbfounded. "Father, what did you just say? You want me to kneel and apologize? Why?" LV Yongsheng's eyes were wide open as he spoke with a face full of disbelief. He almost thought that he had misheard. "Bastard. Why aren't you kneeling? Do you know who he is? He is your uncle, Lu Hantian. Where did you get the courage to be so impudent in front of your uncle?" Lu Nantian coldly snorted as a terrifying aura gushed out and covered LV Yongsheng's body. With a plop sound, LV Yongsheng knelt on the ground. Lu Yuanhua and the others behind him also knelt on the ground without exception. The aura of 4 venerable realm experts was too terrifying. It was not something that they could resist. Lu Hantian. However, they did not care that they were kneeling on the ground. They were all looking at the beggar standing beside Zhuoan in shock. This guy was actually Lu Hantian, the peerless genius that they had worshipped since they were young. However, they also knew that since Lu Nantian had said so, he was definitely not lying to them. Their eyes flickered as LV Yongsheng and the others could only lower their heads and say, "Just now, we were blind and offended, uncle. We hope that you can forgive us." Lu Hantian shook his head and did not pay attention to LV Yongsheng. Instead, he said to Lu Nantian, "If the house of Marquis Qin wants to continue to grow, then you need to properly manage this huge mansion. However, Nantian, you clearly did not satisfy me." Lu Nantian looked ashamed and said, "Big brother, it was my mistake to make the house of Marquis Qin so chaotic. Now that you have returned, the house of Marquis Qin will be managed by you, big brother." Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They never thought that Lu Nantian would actually give up the authority to manage the house of Marquis Qin. That was the position of the lord of a county. His status and authority were practically supreme in Muqin County. "No need. I came back this time because of Zhuoan. Otherwise, I might never step into the house of Marquis Qin. You have been in charge of the house of Marquis Qin for so many years. Leaving it to me will only make things worse. You should keep it for yourself. Lu Hantian waved his hand dispiritedly. Big brother. Father didn't do that on purpose. He had no other choice. I hope you won't hate him, Lu Nantian said hesitantly. All right. Let's not talk about the past. Is that old man dead? Lu Hantian narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. Father passed away 10 years ago. Lu Nantian said sadly. Hey! Dead? Lu Hantian's body trembled. His pupils shrank as he said in surprise. It's Shu Ling Tian, Lu Nantian said with resentment in his eyes. Shu Ling Tian. It's that old man again. I thought that the old man would really leave. He actually stayed in the county for almost 100 years. Lu Hantian's voice became extremely cold. Zhuowen was confused when he heard this. From the conversation between the two, Zhuowen could tell that Shu Ling Tian wasn't simple. Otherwise, even Lu Hantian would reveal a fearful expression. Let's go to the inner hall to talk. I've returned to the house of Marquis Qin to settle some old debts besides the matter of Zhuowen, Lu Hantian said in an indifferent voice. Lu Nantian nodded. His eyes revealed a trace of expectation. He gave some instructions to the other people in the square and led Lu Hantian and Zhuowen into the magnificent inner hall. After Lu Nantian and the other two left, most of the geniuses in the square also dispersed. Lu Yongsheng's group of 10 stood at the edge of the square. Their expressions were extremely complicated. None of them had expected that the peerless genius Lu Hantian would still be alive. Moreover, he had returned to the house of Marquis Qin. Third brother. We can't afford to provoke this Zhuowen. You and I should be very clear about the deeds of our eldest uncle, Lu Hantian. It's obvious that this child and our eldest uncle came out of the blood devil inheritance together. They have a close relationship. You shouldn't provoke him anymore. Otherwise, our eldest uncle might not care about family ties and ruthlessly deal with you. Lu Yongsheng sighed inwardly. He looked at Lu Yuanhua, who was still unwilling to give up. Since childhood, the people of the house of Marquis Qin worshipped Lu Hantian the most. Therefore, they were very clear about the deeds and temperament of Lu Hantian. It was precisely because they were clear about Lu Hantian's temperament that Lu Yongsheng didn't dare to provoke Zhuowen. He was very clear that if Lu Hantian went crazy, he could really do anything. I know, second brother. In the future, I won't provoke Zhuowen anymore. Lu Yuanhua clenched his fists and said with a bitter smile. Lu Yuanhua suddenly realized that he had been thoroughly defeated. Looking at the figure walking side by side with Lu Hantian and Lu Nantian, Lu Yuanhua suddenly thought of the stubborn figure in Ratanama City who didn't yield in the face of his powerful strength. Perhaps from the beginning, he shouldn't have provoked Zhuowen. Unfortunately, time couldn't be turned back, and medicine for regret couldn't be bought. In the spacious inner hall, rows of lanterns floated in the air, illuminating the large hall with incomparable brightness. In the middle of the inner hall sat 3 figures. They were Zhuowen, Lu Hantian, and Lu Nantian. As soon as Zhuowen sat down, he couldn't wait to ask, Big brother Hantian, what exactly was the reason you were trapped in the blood demon inheritance back then? Also, who exactly is this Shu Lingtian that you guys mentioned just now? There were too many questions in Zhuowen's heart. Back in the 100-Year Brew restaurant, when Zhuowen had suggested that they break into the house of Marquis by Chuan, Lu Hantian had revealed a dignified expression. It was as if there was something in the house that he feared. It must be known that Lu Hantian was a supreme heavenly venerate expert. In Zhuowen's opinion, such an expert was almost invincible in Muqin County. However, Lu Hantian had revealed a grave expression. Then, there was only one possibility. There should be an existence hidden in the 100-Year Marquis mansion that Lu Hantian feared. Lu Hantian's eyes flickered as he said, Zhuowen, you're not an outsider. Then, I'll tell you what happened back then. After a pause, Lu Hantian began to tell the truth of what happened back then. 100 years ago, in the previous Vitality Tower battle, Lu Hantian had appeared out of nowhere and defeated countless geniuses. The geniuses of the other 4 superforces couldn't even withstand one move from Lu Hantian. At that time, Lu Hantian was high-spirited and his strength was monstrous. Even some geniuses in the imperial capital county had noticed this peerless heaven's pride of Muqin County. Muqin County was truly blessed at that time. Not only did it produce a peerless genius like Lu Hantian, but his younger brother, Lu Nantian, was also not weak. Although he was not as strong as Lu Hantian, he was comparable to the number 1 geniuses of the other 4 superforces. It could be said that the house of Marquis Qin was at its most glorious at that time. If a single sect had produced 2 extraordinary geniuses, then as time passed and they completely matured, the influence of the Muqin Marquis estate would surely far surpass the other 4 extraordinary powers. At the end of the Vitality Tower battle, Lu Hantian had undoubtedly surpassed all the other geniuses and obtained 5 inheritances on the 4th floor of the inheritance ground. At that time, Lu Hantian was very conceited and looked down on the 5 ancient inheritances. He stubbornly chose the Blood Demon inheritance. The scene at that time was similar to Zhuowen's choice of the Blood Demon inheritance. It shocked countless masters. Lu Hantian was indeed heaven-defying. He had passed through 18 trials and reached the core area of the Blood Demon inheritance ground. At that time, the Blood Demon had yet to awaken. If Lu Hantian wanted to leave, it would have been easy. However, because the Blood Demon inheritance was located in the Blood Demon's lair, and the Blood Demon's lair was the place where the Blood Demon was hibernating, Lu Hantian's strength wasn't as strong as it was now. If he entered the Blood Demon's lair, the chances of him dying were very high. Therefore, Lu Hantian didn't enter. Without any other choice, Lu Hantian could only casually plunder some items from the core area and leave the Blood Demon inheritance ground. After handing over the Blood Demon inheritance ground to Lu Nantian, Lu Hantian was still unwilling to leave like this. Therefore, Lu Hantian re-entered the Blood Demon inheritance ground. He gritted his teeth and decided to enter the Blood Demon's lair. Carefully, Lu Hantian snuck into the Blood Demon's lair. He did indeed find a lot of good things inside. Just as he was about to take some good things, the ancestor of the Marquis House of Baichuan, Shu Lingtian, quietly followed Lu Hantian in. At that time, the one that followed Lu Hantian in was a puppet refined by Shu Lingtian. Its strength was even weaker than Lu Hantian's, but its aura was hidden very well. Even Lu Hantian didn't notice it. It was this puppet that attacked the sleeping Blood Demon when Lu Hantian was about to leave the Blood Demon's lair. With the Blood Demon's personality, it was natural for it to become furious after being disturbed. As for Lu Hantian, he became the sacrificial lamb. Fortunately, Lu Hantian's escaping skills were top-notch. Although the Blood Demon was powerful, Lu Hantian managed to escape with his life. Since then, Lu Hantian had been trapped in the Blood Demon's inheritance ground for 100 years. Shu Lingtian is the ancestor of the Marquis House of Baichuan. He's also a 4th Venerable Realm expert. Zhuowen asked with furrowed brows. He didn't expect that the Marquis House of Baichuan would have an ancestor. This Marquis House of Baichuan was indeed not simple. After such a long period of existence, our 5 superpowers have naturally nurtured many 4th Venerable Realm experts. However, these powerful ancestors would usually choose to leave Muqin County and travel to other places. Or they would go outside the Qing Xian Empire to seek a wider sky. This is also the reason why there are so few 4th Venerable Realm experts in Muqin County. Lu Nantian spread out his hands. Oh, so Shu Lingtian hasn't left. Has he always been in the Marquis House of Baichuan? Zhuowen nodded and continued to ask. No, Shu Lingtian left Muqin County 1,000 years ago. However, he suddenly returned 100 years ago. Perhaps he felt threatened by Big Brother, so Shu Lingtian plotted against Big Brother and caused him to fall in the Blood Demon's inheritance ground. His goal was to prevent the House of Marquis Qin from becoming stronger. Lu Nantian was very clear about the problem. He immediately saw through Shu Lingtian's goal. Chapter 595. Grudges. Back then, the previous owner of the House of Marquis Qin, my father, L.V. Howren, was furious when he found out about this. He barged into Shu Lingtian's cave alone to demand an explanation. Unfortunately, Shu Lingtian was already a peak golden venerate 100 years ago. He was only half a step away from the heavenly venerate realm. My father was the same as me. He had just entered the Four Venerates realm and was only from the Xuanzuan realm. He was 2 realms below the Golden Venerate realm. He was no match for Xu Lingtian. LV Nanshan's eyes were filled with hatred. It was obvious that LV Howren had suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Xu Lingtian. The price of his defeat was naturally his life. Sigh. After that battle, my father was seriously injured. When he returned, he passed the position of county master to me. He then went into seclusion to recuperate, but his injuries were too serious. 10 years ago, his injuries flared up and he passed away. LV Nanshan's resolute face was filled with grief and indignation at the mention of LV Howren's death. His fists were clenched tightly. Boom. LV Hantian's body shook. A terrifying aura surged out. The tables and chairs around them exploded into dust under this aura. At this moment, LV Hantian's playful smile had disappeared. His face was filled with coldness. Well done. This Xu Lingtian is getting more and more arrogant. When the ancestors of the House of Marquis Qin were still around, this old dog didn't even dare to fart. Now that the ancestors of the House of Marquis Qin are no longer around, does this old dog really intend to seize the position of county master of the House of Marquis Qin? LV Hantian's expression was extremely cold. The aura in his body became even more terrifying. Zhuowen and LV Nantian retreated in horror. Zhuowen's retreat was pardonable, but LV Nantian was also from the Xuanzuan realm. Even he was forced to retreat. This LV Hantian was indeed terrifying. Big brother, could it be that you've also reached the Golden Exalt realm? Sensing Lu Hantian's terrifying aura, Lu Nanshan's eyes flickered and he revealed a look of pleasant surprise. Although he knew that Lu Hantian's cultivation was definitely higher than his, he only believed that the former was only a level higher than him, the sovereign realm. However, Lu Hantian's aura alone was enough to force him to retreat. This was not something a sovereign could do. At the very least, Lu Hantian was a golden exalt. The Four Venerables realm, as the name implied, naturally had 4 minor realms. They were the Xuanzuan realm, the Supreme realm, the Golden Venerables realm, and the Heavenly Venerables realm. Each realm was more terrifying than the last. Moreover, after reaching the 4th level, the armor soul in his body would also be greatly improved. It would be materialized, and the armor soul would turn from a soul body into a physical body. Its strength would increase exponentially. Therefore, after reaching the 4th venerable realm, the armor soul, which had become useless, would become extremely important and powerful. It could greatly increase the strength of the martial artist. However, Lu Hantian shook his head and said, "It's not the Golden Venerables realm, but the peak of the Heavenly Venerables realm. Although the Blood Demon's land of inheritance is extremely dangerous, there are also many benefits. The energy of heaven and earth inside is much richer. 1 day of cultivation inside is equivalent to a month's cultivation. It's almost 30 times faster than the outside world." Hearing this, Zhuowen and Lu Nantian both nodded. No wonder Lu Hantian's cultivation was so fast. It turned out that the Blood Demon's land of inheritance had such benefits. Hee. This time, I've survived a great disaster. Then, I'll kill that old dog Xu Lingtian. The Baichuan Marquis residence doesn't need to exist anymore. This time, the Baichuan Marquis residence will be my stepping stone. Lu Hantian slowly withdrew his aura and said indifferently, "Zhuowen, go ahead and break into the Baichuan Marquis residence. I'll do my best to pin down the experts inside for you. If anyone dares to touch you, I'll directly destroy them." Lu Hantian patted Zhuowen's shoulder and said heroically, "Many thanks, big brother Hantian." Zhuowen quickly cupped his hands, his face full of gratitude. "Nantian, go to the Baichuan Marquis residence first and send that Shuchang away. Let Zhuowen do his best to break through the Baichuan Marquis residence. Leave the matter of covering the rear to me," Lu Hantian said to Lu Nantian. "Okay. I'll go to the Baichuan Marquis residence now." Lu Nanshan's face lit up with excitement. When he learned that Lu Hantian had reached the peak of the Empyrean realm, he knew that he would be able to take revenge for LV Howren. As Lu Nantian left, Lu Hantian waved his sleeve and a wisp of energy passed between Zhuowen's eyebrows. He continued to say, "Zhuowen, The information I sent you is the approximate location of the Baichuan Marquis residence. Since Xu Tianliang is the high heir of the Baichuan Marquis residence, he should be living in Arid Peace Palace. That is the palace of the high heirs. Go there and look for him. After obtaining this information, Zhuowen's face lit up with joy. He wasn't familiar with the Baichuan Marquis residence and had been worried about the map problem. But now, Lu Hantian had helped him solve it ahead of time. Let's go. This old man will accompany you to the Baichuan Marquis residence. This time, we must turn the Baichuan Marquis residence upside down. Only then will that old dog Xu Lingtian appear. Otherwise, even I won't be able to find that old dog. As Lu Hantian spoke, he flicked his sleeves and brought Zhuowen with him, vanishing from the inner hall. Within the Baichuan Marquis residence, within a vast palace, Xu Chang was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat, silently cultivating. The aura around him surged like a raging river, unstoppable. Dong dong. A clear knocking sound slowly sounded out. Xu Chang frowned. He opened his eyes and coldly said, "What is it?" He saw a maid in plain clothes push open the door and enter. She respectfully bowed and said, "Lord Marquis, Lord Lu Nantian requests an audience." Lu Nantian? Why did he suddenly request an audience with me? Xu Chang was puzzled as he asked in puzzlement. After the maid left, Xu Chang tidied up his clothes and slowly pushed open the door. Although the Baichuan Marquis residence had Xu Lingtian's support, he actually did not take Lu Nantian seriously. However, Lu Nantian was the county lord after all. Moreover, Lu Nantian's strength was much higher than his, so Xu Chang was still extremely fearful. Although he was full of doubts, he still could not forget some etiquette. Ancestor is about to come out of closed-door cultivation. When he completely comes out, I'm afraid the county lord will change. Xu Chang could not help but reveal a trace of a sinister smile when he recalled Xu Lingtian's promise to him. He was very clear about Xu Lingtian's strength. Although Xu Lingtian's strength was unstoppable 100 years ago, the position of county lord was not something that could be taken at will. This position was personally conferred by the Qing emperor. Xu Lingtian was indeed powerful, but he still did not dare to seize it by force. However, if Xu Lingtian could break through to the heavenly venerate realm, he would be valued by the Qing emperor. At that time, as long as Xu Lingtian asked, the Qing emperor would probably agree to the matter of changing the county lord. A few days ago, Ancestor said that he was about to break through to the heavenly venerate realm. It seems that the day of our Baichuan Marquis residence becoming the county lord of Muqin is approaching. Hee. Thinking of this, the corners of Xu Chang's mouth curved into a complacent smile. He was no longer so fearful of Lu Nantian because in his opinion, this Lu Nantian was destined to submit to him. In the hall, Lu Nantian smiled and sat quietly in his seat, leisurely sipping tea as if this place was his home. When Xu Chang entered the hall and saw LV Nantian who was leisurely and contented, there was a slight displeasure between his brows. He really didn't like LV Nantian's leisurely and contented expression, as if everything was in his hands. However, when he recalled Xu Lingtian's words, he did not pay too much attention to it. Instead, he smiled and said, "May I know why Brother Lu has suddenly come to my residence?" "Haha. Brother Xu, it's been a long time since I've had a good chat with you. I've nothing to do today, so I wanted to have a good chat with you. I've even brought a lot of wine and delicacies." The corners of Lu Nantian's mouth curved into a smile. With a wave of his sleeve, a rectangular table appeared in the center of the hall. It was filled with a rich and delicious wine. The wine was sweet and mellow like nectar, and its fragrance permeated the air. Xu Chang revealed a strange expression. He wasn't sure what Lu Nantian's intentions were, but he didn't care too much. He sat down across from Lu Nantian and said, "Since Brother Lu is so kind, I won't refuse. Today, I will drink with Brother Lu to my heart's content." As Xu Chang and Lu Nantian were drinking with their own thoughts, Lu Hantian and Zhuowen were standing in the skies above the 100 Rivers Marquis mansion, looking down at the massive city below. "Zhuowen, Arid Peace Palace is there. I fear that your family members are imprisoned in the depths of the palace. Go ahead, your big brother will wait for you here. Make as much noise as you can. This time, we must draw out that old dog Xu Lingtian. As Lu Hantian spoke to her, his lips curved up in a cold smile. Also, give me your bone spear, Lu Hantian suddenly said to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was startled. Although he was puzzled, he still took out the dragon-scale tyrant bone spear and handed it to Lu Hantian. Bang! A mysterious concept emerged from Lu Hantian's hand. The originally ordinary-looking bone spear actually erupted with a terrifying aura. It began to expand like a balloon, spreading out for nearly 100 miles. Moreover, this aura continued to increase until it spread out for nearly 1,000 miles. This terrifying aura covered the entire area for 1,000 miles. Countless white clouds tumbled about, as if countless dragons were wreaking havoc. Luckily, they were 10,000 miles high up in the skies, so not many people noticed this strange phenomenon. Whoosh! This aura only lasted for a moment before it was completely restrained. The bone spear was still a bone spear, but there was an additional sharpness to it. Zhuowen, pour a part of my spear intent into this bone spear. With this spear, no one below the 9-wheel Emperor realm will be able to stop you. Within the 100-river Marquis mansion, besides Xu Chang and Xu Lingtian, no one will be able to injure you. Lu Hantian smiled as he tossed the bone spear to Zhuowen. Receiving the bone spear, Zhuowen discovered that a mysterious concept flowed along the surface of the bone spear like the veins of a person's body. With just a thought, this powerful spear intent hidden deep within the bone spear would surge out like a tide. Invincible beneath the 9-wheel Emperor realm? Zhuowen revealed an excited expression. He had not expected Lu Hantian to pour spear intent into the dragon-scale tyrant bone spear. He knew that Lu Hantian's spear intent had reached the peak of perfection. With this spear intent, he truly did not need to fear the experts within the 100-river Marquis mansion. Many thanks, Big Brother Hantian. Zhuowen laughed heartily as he cupped his hands. Go. Lu Hantian waved his hand. Whoosh. Chapter 596. Arid Peace Palace. Outside the county capital, a beam of light cut through the air. In front of the giant city gates, countless saber energies crisscrossed. Surrounded by this terrifying saber energy, a figure was faintly discernible. This person was dressed in coarse clothes, and his exposed skin was wheat-colored. His muscles were bulging, and he was tall. However, the saber on his back was even larger than his body, and looked extremely exaggerated. It was actually the one-track-minded youth with the saber. This Muqin county capital isn't small, but it's much worse than the capital of the imperial city. I wonder if that boy who comprehended spear intent is in this county capital. The youth with the saber muttered to himself within the saber energy. Then, he stepped into the air and flew into the county capital. What was strange was that the guards at the city gates didn't detect this youth at all. Whoosh! Arid Peace Palace was located deep in the northwest of 100 Rivers Marquis Mansion. After Zhuowen landed on the ground, his aura was completely restrained as he slipped into the surrounding environment like a shadow. With Zhuowen's strength, as long as he didn't deliberately expose himself, then no one would notice him. Of course, 100 Rivers Marquis Mansion was heavily guarded. Even Zhuowen had to spend a great deal of energy to avoid the probing of many powerhouses and arrive at Arid Peace Palace deep in the northwest. After avoiding a group of patrolling soldiers, Zhuowen lifted his foot and was about to enter Arid Peace Palace when Xiao Hei's cautious voice sounded out in his mind. Be careful. There is an array formation outside Arid Peace Palace. If you casually step in, then you will be discovered by Xu Tianliang within Arid Peace Palace. Hearing this, Zhuowen was startled. He didn't think that there would be an array formation outside Arid Peace Palace. He quickly asked, how come I don't feel any fluctuations of an array formation? Xiao Hei proudly smiled. Who do you think this Dragon Lord is? How can you compare to it? No formation can escape this Dragon Lord's fiery golden eyes. Zhuowen helplessly shrugged. He didn't bother with the self-satisfied Xiao Hei. Instead, he continued to ask, then do you know how to break through it? Of course. Watch this Dragon Lord. Xiao Hei coldly smiled. She turned into a wisp of black light and vanished from Arid Peace Palace. Around an hour later, Xiao Hei returned to Zhuowen's spiritual sea. She said, this array formation is quite fierce. it took me a great deal of time. You can go in now. Zhuowen looked at Xiao He strangely. When he was trying to break the array, he did not see any signs of the array being broken. When he thought about how he did not see any signs of the array being broken, Zhuowen began to suspect that Xiao He was deliberately showing off in front of him to show off her great abilities. Hey, kid, what's with that look? Hurry up and go in, Xiao He said coldly. Zhuowen curled his lips and nodded. Then, he stepped forwards and flew into Arid Peace Palace like a gust of wind. 2 black-armored soldiers stood on either side of Arid Peace Palace's gates. With a flash of cold light, the 2 soldiers fell to the ground without even making a sound. Then, a phantom flashed past them and entered the palace. Inside the entrance was a deep corridor. Lamps were lit on both sides, making the dark corridor seem as bright as day. Zhuowen walked carefully. Before he found the Zhuo family, he didn't dare to alert the enemy. After all, if he did, Xu Tianliang might do something to the Zhuo family. With Xiao He's help, Zhuowen restrained his aura to the extreme. He was like a shadow beneath the light. After passing through the corridor, he arrived at a wide hall. There were stone pillars erected all around, supporting the entire hall. There wasn't a single person in the hall, and deathly silence that seemed like complete silence spread throughout the surroundings, causing it to be cold and terrifying. There's no one here. Looking around at the silent surroundings, Zhuowen frowned. This hall should be the deepest part of Arid Peace Palace. If he wasn't wrong, this should be where Xu Tianliang usually stayed. So why was it so strange today that there wasn't a single person here? Creak. The sound of machinery turning echoed throughout the hall. Zhuowen immediately noticed that in the left corner of the hall, there was a row of common-looking bookshelves. At this time, the bookshelves began to slowly open from the center. Zhuowen could even faintly hear the voices of people inside. Whoosh! Zhuowen wasn't slow. He immediately hid behind a stone pillar, hiding in the shadows. With Xiao He's help, they seemed to blend into the darkness. The bookshelves completely opened and 2 figures walked out. These 2 people weren't too old and they were dressed as servants. As they walked out, they were chatting with each other. However, the way these 2 people walked was a bit strange. With one in front and one behind, it was as if they were carrying something together. It seemed as if they were struggling. The Crown Prince's murderous aura is too heavy. How many people has he tortured today? It should be the 10th. I really have no idea why the Crown Prince would torture these people. Moreover, he cruelly tortured them to death. Even I can't stand such a scene. Why do you care so much? Maybe these people offended the Crown Prince in some way? Don't say such things again in the future. Otherwise, if the Crown Prince hears you, you'll be in for a treat. Drip, drip. As the 2 people walked past Zhuowen's stone pillar, Zhuowen could clearly hear the sound of water dripping onto the ground. Then, he discovered that the path the 2 people were walking on was filled with red blood. And, this blood was flowing from the object they were carrying. When the 2 of them arrived at Zhuowen's side, Zhuowen discovered that the 2 of them were carrying a corpse. The corpse belonged to a young man who was about the same age as Zhuowen. At this moment, blood was flowing out of his 7 orifices. His eyes were wide open and filled with resentment. When Zhuowen saw the appearance of this corpse, his pupils shrank into needles and his heart skipped a beat. This corpse was actually a member of the Zhuo family. Moreover, he also knew this person. He was a junior of the same generation as the Zhuo family. His name was Zhuojun. When Zhuowen became the pavilion master of the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, this Zhuojun had also sent gifts to Zhuowen. Their relationship could be considered good. But now, he had turned into an ice-cold corpse. Who are you? How did you enter Arid Peace Palace? The 2 people suddenly discovered Zhuowen behind the stone pillar and couldn't help but shout out loud. They had never seen this person in Arid Peace Palace before. Moreover, this person's appearance was extremely unfamiliar. If they didn't discover him behind the stone pillar, then they feared he wasn't simple at all. Put him down. Then bring me into the chamber. Zhuowen's complexion was ice cold. From the conversation just now, it seemed that Xu Tianliang had gone mad and tortured the Zhuo family clansmen. He had even tortured 10 of them to death. At this time, Zhuowen's heart was burning with anxiety. He had to hurry to the chamber and rescue his clansmen. You really aren't someone from the 100 Rivers Marquis mansion. You actually dare to intrude into the mansion? Are you tired of living? Today, I will capture you and bring you to see the crown heir. The tall and thin servant standing in front had his hands on his hips, a cold sneer on his face. He looked at Zhuowen as if he were looking at a dead man. In his opinion, Zhuowen was simply seeking death by intruding into the 100 Rivers Marquis mansion. Poochie. A cold light flashed and blood gushed out. The tall and thin servant's voice came to an abrupt end. He clutched his neck and looked at the mysterious youth in front of him with horror. Then, he slowly slumped to the ground. The other short and fat servant looked at the tall and thin servant who had lost his breath. His whole body trembled and his teeth chattered. With a plop, he knelt down and said, "Sir, please spare my life. Don't kill me." The tall and thin servant was stronger than him. Now that he was killed in one move, the short and fat servant naturally knew that he was no match for the mysterious youth in front of him. He immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. "Bring me to the chamber, or die." Zhuowen's gaze was extremely cold. As he looked at Zhuojun, who had died with his eyes wide open, the killing intent in Zhuowen's heart towards Xu Tianliang surged even more violently. Okay. I will bring you to the chamber." The short and fat servant bitterly smiled and could only agree. He knew that if he didn't agree, the young man in front of him would directly kill him with a spear strike. Slowly walking to Zhuojun's corpse, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with sorrow. He closed Zhuojun's angry eyes and calmly said, "Don't worry. Today, Xu Tianliang will definitely die." Hearing this, the short and fat servant's eyes revealed a trace of shock. This mysterious youth was actually here to assassinate the crown prince. He looked less than 20 years old. How could he be a match for the crown prince? He was probably here to die. Thinking of this, the short and fat servant shook his head. He felt that this mysterious youth was overestimating himself. He actually dared to challenge the crown prince. "Lead the way. Don't play any tricks. My spear will always run faster than you. If you don't want to die, you'd better bring me to Xu Tianliang." Zhuowen's gaze was cold as he pressed the spear tip against the short and fat servant's back. "I don't dare. I will lead the way for you." Feeling the coldness from his back, the short and fat servant's body turned cold. He quickly led Zhuowen to the bookshelf that had already been opened. Behind the bookshelf was a deep tunnel. There were oil lamps on both sides, so the line of sight was quite clear. Following the short and fat servant, Zhuowen slowly entered the tunnel, but he didn't let down his guard. In the depths of the tunnel, there was a huge space. The walls of this space were made of rock, and there were huge lamps hanging in the air. They were like small suns, illuminating this dark space. There were all kinds of torture instruments in this space. At this time, these instruments were more or less stained with blood. The smell of blood filled the entire space. In the center of this space, there were dozens of wooden crosses. There were people tied to these crosses. If Zhuowen was here, he would definitely recognize these people. They were all members of the Zhuo family. Grandpa Zhuo Xiangding, Big Uncle Zhuo Beitian, Second Uncle Zhuo Dingtian, and Zhuowen also had quite a number of geniuses of the same generation. Most of them were riddled with scars and wounds all over their bodies. Cherry-red blood dripped onto the ground. Under the crosses, there were many people dressed like servants. They held whips in their hands and waved them at the people on the crosses, leaving new scars on their bodies. At this moment, Xu Tianliang was sitting in front of the crowd, looking at the painful expressions of the people on the crosses with a mocking gaze. Beside Xu Tianliang stood a middle-aged man in blue with a terrifying aura and a cold expression. "Hee. Don't blame me, Xu Tianliang. If you want to blame someone, blame that son of a bitch from the Zhuo family called Zhuowen. Not only did he kill my second brother, but he also caused me to lose my ancient inheritance. He deserved to die in the inheritance of the blood devil." Xu Tianliang said slowly. "Good kill. Your Baichuan Marquis mansion is no good. I really hate that Zhuowen didn't kill you back then." The Ultimate Essence. Chapter 597. The bronze branding pillar. Shu Tianliang immediately saw a robust old man with a head full of silver hair standing at the head of the cross. He sneered. "You must be Zhuo Xiangding, right? Zhuowen's grandfather. Hehe, your temper is really similar to that bastard Zhuowen's. But this is exactly what I hate the most." Shu Tianliang slowly stood up and walked over to Zhuo Xiangding. He looked at the old man who was covered in wounds but still refused to submit. A trace of disgust appeared in Shu Tianliang's eyes. This expression was very similar to Zhuowen's. "Like puppy, like old dog. It looks like this lord didn't treat you well enough. Men, bring me the bronze branding pillar. I want to properly entertain this old man," Shu Tianliang snickered. Many of the people present paled when they heard this. The bronze branding pillar was an extremely terrifying torture tool. It was said that the pillar was connected to the magma deep underground and the prisoner would be tied to it. The magma was terrifyingly hot, enough to burn the bronze branding pillar red. The temperature had reached almost 1,000 degrees. Even an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator would suffer unbearable pain if they were trapped in the pillar. "Shu Tianliang. You bastard, come at me if you have the ability." "What kind of ability is that to my father?" Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Beitian were furious as they shouted in unison. Zhuo Xiangding was already heavily injured from the earlier torture. If he was tied to the bronze branding pillar, he would probably not be able to hold on for long. "You two don't need to be in such a hurry. It will be your turn soon. There's no need to rush to die." Shu Tianliang sneered. He ignored the frenzied Zhuo family members behind him and took the bronze rod from a servant. He formed a seal with both hands and the small rod rapidly expanded until it was several thousand feet long. Shu Tianliang slammed it deep into the ground. Instantly, a terrifying heat wave swept over, causing the temperature of the entire space to soar like a hot stove. Many people inside were sweating profusely, and the bronze pillar that was inserted into the ground instantly turned red. Seeing the red pillar, the expressions of many people changed. Everyone could imagine that if they were to be bound by the pillar, they would undoubtedly die. Zhuo Xiangding's expression did not change. He ignored the bronze pillar and stared straight at Shu Tianliang. In fact, when he heard the news of Zhuowen's death, his heart had already died. Zhuowen was the most outstanding genius of the Rika bloodline. He was even more heaven-defying than Zhuo Xiaotian. After Zhuo Xiaotian went missing 10 years ago, Zhuo Xiangding had placed all his hopes of reviving the Rika bloodline on Zhuo Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had also fallen. How could Zhuo Xiangding not be sad? How could he not be angry? Now, he had taken life and death too lightly. "Bring this old thing here. I will personally tie him to the bronze pillar." Standing beside the bronze pillar, Shu Tianliang looked at Zhuo Xiangding with a mocking expression. The two servants did not dare to be negligent. They quickly escorted Zhuo Xiangding to the front of the bronze pillar. "Old man, do you have any last words? You can say them now. Maybe if I am in a good mood, I will help you achieve it." Shu Tianliang sneered. "My last words are simple. That is, you, Shu Tianliang, and the house of Marquis of Baichuan will be destroyed. You, who killed my Zhuo family, will not have a good death." Zhuo Xiangding straightened his back and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "You're really stubborn, but I won't bother with a person who's about to die." Shu Tianliang snorted coldly. With a stroke of his right hand, a powerful force surged out. Zhuo Xiangding directly retreated and leaned against the bronze pillar behind him. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Zhuo Xiangding's eyes widened and his face was full of pain. However, he did not make a sound and just stared at Shu Tianliang. "The best part is yet to come. You don't have to stare at me, hey." Shu Tianliang sneered. Unknowingly, a copper chain appeared in his palm. With a wave of his right hand, the copper chain wrapped around Zhuo Xiangding like a snake. He wanted to tie Zhuo Xiangding tightly to the bronze pillar. Clang! The crisp sound of metal clashing rang out as a cold glint rapidly flashed across the air. The copper chain that was about to wrap around Zhuo Xiangding was directly shattered into pieces. Soon after, a bone spear quietly stood in front of the bronze pillar. "Who is it?" Shu Tianliang's face was gloomy and he kept retreating. However, when he saw the bone spear in front of him, his pupils shrank. He was too familiar with this weapon. It was this bone spear that pierced his shoulder blade and forced him to give up the ancient inheritance. Tyrannical dragon scale bone spear? Zhuowen? Xu Tianliang could not help but exclaim. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the space focused their attention on the bone spear. The people of Marquis Baichuan's mansion were gloomy, but the people of the Zhuo family were pleasantly surprised. Zhuowen did not die. He really did not die. At this moment, the people of the Zhuo family only had this thought in their minds. Zhuowen. Zhuo Xiangding collapsed on the ground. Looking at the tyrannical dragon scale bone spear, he was already in tears. This old man, who did not change his expression when facing the bronze pillar, actually revealed his true feelings because of a bone spear. Whoosh. A silhouette flashed past, lightning crackling under his feet. A black-haired young man stood on a bone spear with one leg. 2 pairs of lightning wings spread out behind his back. Countless lightning bolts filled the air, and the entire space seemed to have turned into a world of lightning. Zhuowen. Zhuowen. As soon as the black-haired young man appeared, the people of the Zhuo family, who were tied to the crosses, revealed hopeful expressions. Everyone smiled. The Zhuo family had long regarded Zhuowen as the hope of Rikeres revival. As long as Zhuowen did not die, then both the Zhuo family and Rike would definitely rise again. However, if Zhuowen died, then all hope would be lost. Therefore, the moment Zhuowen appeared, the people of the Zhuo family smiled happily. This was because the hero in their hearts had finally arrived at the final moment. Boom, boom, boom. Zhuowen stomped his foot with a cold expression. Looking at Zhuo Xiangding, who was paralyzed on the ground, and the people of the Zhuo family who were tied to the crosses, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with monstrous anger. Endless lightning surged out of Zhuowen's lightning wings like the sharpest blade. In an instant, the restraints on the Zhuo family members collapsed. Then, all the people of the Zhuo family gathered around Zhuowen. Zhuowen slowly came to Zhuo Xiangding's side and gently helped the silver-haired old man up. His eyes were filled with guilt. Grandfather, I'm sorry. I didn't protect you and your family. I deserve to die. Zhuowen said in a low voice. His heart was filled with self-blame. If he had not chosen to stay in the Blood Devil's inheritance land and left directly, perhaps this would not have happened. Zhuowen had always felt guilty about this. It's okay. It's good that you're back. Zhuo Xiangding looked emotional and cried tears of joy. Zhuowen, I didn't expect a bastard like you to be able to come out of the Vitality Tower. It seems that your luck is pretty good. However, your good luck has come to an end. You dare to break into my Baichuan Marquis mansion. No matter how strong you are, you will die here. Although Xu Tianliang was shocked, he still spoke coldly to Zhuowen and looked at Zhuowen with a wary expression. What made Xu Tianliang stunned was that Zhuowen did not even look at him from beginning to end. Instead, he took out precious elixirs and handed them to the Zhuo family members. These elixirs were obtained by Zhuowen from the Blood Devil's inheritance land. They were extremely abundant. Grade 4 elixirs. Zhuowen, how do you have so many Grade 4 elixirs on you? Heavens! It's actually Grade 5 elixirs. This rich medicinal aura can only be from Grade 5 elixirs. The Zhuo family members were in an uproar from time to time. They all looked at the elixirs that Zhuowen took out in astonishment. These elixirs were basically Grade 4 elixirs, and the Grade 5 elixirs were handed by Zhuowen to Zhuo Xiangding. There were so many Grade 4 elixirs, and there were even Grade 5 elixirs among them. Not only were the Zhuo family members shocked, but even the surrounding people of the Baichuan Marquis mansion were shocked. Although the Baichuan Marquis mansion was large, there were not many Grade 4 elixirs in reserve. Especially Grade 5 elixirs, even their Baichuan Marquis mansion was relatively rare. However, Zhuowen directly took them out and looked extremely casual, as if he did not take them to heart. Zhuowen, this Grade 5 elixir is too precious. You should keep it for yourself. However, Zhuo Xiangding was somewhat hesitant. A Tier 5 spirit herb was extremely precious, and he was not willing to use it. Grandfather, you can rest assured. I don't lack elixirs. Since I came out of the Blood Devil inheritance, It means that I have obtained the Blood Devil inheritance. With the name of the Blood Devil inheritance, do you think I lack these elixirs? Zhuowen shook his head. As soon as Zhuowen's words came out, the scene suddenly became silent. Everyone stared blankly at the young man holding the bone spear. The Blood Devil inheritance was really obtained by Zhuowen? Xu Tianliang was also stunned. Originally, in his opinion, Zhuowen had come out alive because of luck, and not because he had obtained the inheritance of the Blood Devil. But now, Zhuowen's words had stunned him. The Blood Devil inheritance was the most terrifying inheritance in the land of inheritance. Zhuowen actually obtained it. This was something that even Lu Hantian could not do 100 years ago. However, a sneer quickly appeared on Xu Tianliang's face. He did not believe that Zhuowen was able to obtain the Blood Demon's inheritance. In his opinion, Zhuowen had said this to intimidate them. Zhuowen, your tricks are really childish. Do you think that the lie of obtaining the Blood Devil inheritance can deter us? Not to mention that you didn't obtain the Blood Devil inheritance, even if you did, so what? Today, you still won't be able to walk out of here alive. Xu Tianliang sneered. However, Zhuowen still ignored Xu Tianliang. Instead, he silently healed the Zhuo family members, completely ignoring Xu Tianliang. You bastard, how dare you ignore me? Don't think that you can jump on top of me just because you defeated me by luck in the land of inheritance. Now that I have advanced to the mid-stage of the Ultimate Emperor stage, I'm afraid that you are no longer my opponent. However, Xu Tianliang's words were ignored by Zhuowen again. Suddenly, Xu Tianliang's chest became extremely tight. He roared angrily and rushed towards Zhuowen. Today, he would definitely teach this arrogant Zhuowen a lesson. How dare he ignore him, Xu Tianliang? Who did Zhuowen think he was? Chapter 598. Trapped in the secret chamber instantly, the scene became incomparably silent. One could even hear a pin drop. Looking at Xu Tianliang, who was lying on the ground a dozen meters away, both the Zhuo clan members and the servants of the Marquis of Baichuan's mansion sucked in a cold breath. Xu Tianliang was a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor realm expert, but he was sent flying while vomiting blood. Wasn't this too exaggerated? How strong was Zhuowen? Eldest Crown Prince. Are you okay? The blue-clothed middle-aged man, who had been standing silently on the side, turned into a blue shadow and helped Xu Tianliang, who had fallen to the ground in a sorry state, up. A trace of solemnity appeared on his cold face. When Zhuowen attacked just now, the aura that had suddenly erupted had made him tremble with fear. Xu Yu. Kill that bastard Zhuowen for me. Xu Tianliang stood up, his hair disheveled. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the blue-clothed middle-aged man and roared. He was too unwilling to accept that he had been defeated by the same person twice. Moreover, the second time, he had been defeated in a single blow. Xu Tianliang was not stupid. He knew that Zhuowen's strength was definitely far above his. Otherwise, he would not have been defeated so thoroughly. Eldest Crown Prince. This boy is not simple. Leave this place quickly and call the experts of the house to surround and kill him. We will definitely be able to kill him. Otherwise, we may not be enough, the blue-clothed middle-aged man said solemnly. What? Xu Yu, you are a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor realm expert. Are you still not a match for this boy? Xu Tianliang said in shock. He did not believe that Zhuowen was really so strong. Xu Yu was a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor realm expert. He probably did not fear Lviatao at all, but now he was so afraid of Zhuowen. Naturally, Xu Tianliang found it unbelievable. This boy's aura is not weaker than a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor realm expert. Moreover, he probably has a lot of trump cards. Even I may not be able to defeat him. Therefore, it is extremely dangerous for you to stay here, the blue-clothed middle-aged man, Xu Yu, said in a low voice. Hearing this, Xu Tianliang's face darkened. He did not expect Xu Yu to have such a high opinion of Zhuowen. Coupled with the crushing defeat just now, Xu Tianliang knew that Zhuowen was not the same as before. Yes. You guys delay Zhuowen. I will immediately summon the experts of the house of the Marquis of Baichuan. Xu Tianliang's eyes flashing, Xu Tianliang's whispered. After that, Xu Tianliang's figure flashed and swept directly toward the corridor behind. Obviously, he intended to leave this place to call for reinforcements. Xu Tianliang, do you think you can? Come back here. Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed as he looked at the fleeing figure of Xu Tianliang. His right hand suddenly slapped out, and immediately, golden light flickered and overflowed in all directions. A huge golden palm condensed in the air and slapped towards the back of the fleeing Xu Tianliang. Zhuowen, your opponent is me, not the first crown prince. Xu Yu snorted coldly. The aura of a four-wheel middle-stage ultimate emperor realm expert surged out. His black hair danced in the wind and his eyes flashed. He also struck out with a huge black palm to meet Zhuowen's golden palm. Rumble. The palms collided. Gold and black were like two extremes, dividing the entire space into two colors, gold and black. Can you block it? With a cold snort, Zhuowen's killing intent soared. He took a step forward and instantly arrived above the two palms. All 360 acupoints in his body were opened. Zhuowen's entire body shone with golden light, like a solemn ancient Buddha. Break it. The palm shuttled through the void and pressed against the huge golden palm. Suddenly, the golden light blazed like a small sun, so bright that everyone could not open their eyes. Crack. In 2 breaths' time, the golden light completely suppressed the black light. Xu Yu's black palm shattered like glass. Xu Yu retreated continuously, a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. His face was full of shock. Xu Tianliang, who was fleeing toward the corridor, also saw the strange situation behind him. He turned back and saw Xu Yu vomiting blood. In the exchange of blows, Xu Yu was actually at a disadvantage. This discovery made Xu Tianliang stagger. Zhuowen's strength was too terrifying. Fortunately, Xu Yu told him to escape quickly. Otherwise, he would have really died at Zhuowen's hands. No matter how strong you are, wait until I gather all the experts in the residence. Zhuowen, you will die without a doubt. Muttering to himself, Xu Tianliang sped up. The threat that Zhuowen gave him was too strong. He had to get out as soon as possible. Get out of the way, or die. Looking at Xu Tianliang, who had disappeared in the corridor, Zhuowen frowned. He knew that after Xu Tianliang escaped, he would inevitably gather all the experts in the residence. Although he was not afraid because of Lu Hantian's spear intent, he could not guarantee the safety of the Zhuo family, so he was a little anxious. Xu Yu's face was full of fear, but he did not give in. Instead, he said to the trembling servants of the Marquis mansion, "Stop this boy. Anyone who disobeys will be killed." As soon as Xu Yu's words came out, the surrounding servants' faces all changed. Under Xu Yu's indifferent gaze, they all gathered in front of Xu Yu and blocked Zhuowen's way. "Zhuowen, when the eldest prince escapes, it will be the time of death for you traitors. If you surrender now, I, Xu Yu, will plead with the eldest prince for you. Maybe the eldest prince will spare your lives." Xu Yu stared at Zhuowen with fear. He even used the Marquis mansion to deter Zhuowen and others. Zhuowen sneered. Did Xu Yu really think he was a fool? Surrender without a fight? Perhaps only a fool would accept such a condition. You talk too much nonsense. You'd better save your words in the netherworld. With a sneer, Zhuowen stamped his feet and 2 pairs of thunder wings spread out. His whole body turned into a strange and unpredictable thunder, and instantly arrived above Xu Yu and others. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 4 kinds of earth fires suddenly sprang out from Zhuowen's body. With a change of his hand gesture, the 4 kinds of earth fires suddenly merged and turned into 4 alternating colors of terrifying flames. As soon as the 4-colored flames came out, a terrifying temperature gushed out. In an instant, the entire space above turned into a monstrous sea of fire, and then the terrifying sea of fire suddenly fell down like the sky was collapsing. Everyone, let's work together to block it. Xu Yu's face changed slightly and he quickly shouted. At the same time, he raised his hands and a terrifying power gushed out. The other servants also raised their hands and released their best moves. In an instant, the colorful energy spread out like a universe of light and turned into a semicircular 5-colored round shield in the air. This was the defensive energy shield that Shu Yu and others had created together. Boom! The four-colored sea of fire descended and bombarded the five-colored round shield. The earth-shattering tremors spread throughout the entire space. However, the five-colored round shield was quite impressive. It barely managed to block the corrosion of the four-colored flames. Shu Yu and others breathed a sigh of relief. Among them, Shu Yu shook his head and mocked, "Zhuowen, I'll give you one more chance. Surrender now. When the masters of the Marquis Mansion arrive, I can guarantee your life in front of the eldest prince. How about it? Do you really think that I can't do anything to you?" The corner of Zhuowen's mouth curled up into a cold smile. With a stomp of his foot, a chilling white flame slowly emerged from Zhuowen's body. For a moment, the surrounding temperature actually dropped by a lot. This flame was one of the earth fires that Zhuowen had obtained from the Blood Devil's land of inheritance. It was called the Nine Underworld Cold Flame. Another earth fire. Shu Yu's pupils shrank and could not help but exclaim. Just now, Zhuowen had released 4 earth fires, which was already extremely terrifying. But now, this guy actually released 1 earth fire. Let's try the power of the 5-colored flames. As soon as the 9 Serenities cold flame appeared, Zhuowen's hand gesture suddenly changed. Under the effect of the fire melting technique, the cold 9 Serenities cold flame merged into the 4-colored flames in the sky. Suddenly, the 4-colored sea of fire rolled like waves. Between the 4 colors, there was a trace of cold white. The 4-colored flames finally transformed into 5-colored flames. Bang! As soon as the 5-colored flames formed, a terrifying power surged forth. The 5-colored round shield above Shu Yu and the others was like fragile glass, collapsing inch by inch until it turned to dust. "No. We don't want to die, please let us go." What a terrifying flame. The instant the 5-colored round shield shattered, the 5-colored refining flame instantly swallowed Shu Yu and the others below. Immediately, miserable screams rang out one after another. In just a moment, everyone except Shu Yu had been turned into ashes by the 5-colored refining flame. Shu Yu was the strongest, but at this time he was also riddled with wounds. His entire body twitched and he was half dead, not far from death. "Grandfather, follow me. I'll lead you out of Arid Peace Palace first. We can't stay here any longer." Ignoring the half-dead Shu Yu, Zhuowen spoke to Zhuo Xiangding and the other Zhuo family members behind him. "Millimeter, we'll listen to you. You can make the decision." At this time, Zhuo Xiangding's face was full of gratification. The formidable strength that Zhuowen had displayed just now had left him satisfied. The stronger Zhuowen was, the more their Zhuo family would prosper. If Zhuowen could reach the level of the former patriarch of the Riker family, then it was possible for them to revive the Riker family. Zhuowen nodded. He led Zhuo Xiangding and the others deeper into the corridor. When they reached the end, they all stopped. This was because they discovered that at some unknown time, this underground chamber had been sealed up. It must have been done by that Shu Tianliang. After that fellow escaped, he planned on trapping us here. Zhuo Xiangding said, his complexion ugly. "It's fine. Just watch me forcefully break open this space." Zhuowen shook his head. That Shu Tianliang once said that this chamber was created by a meteorite that fell from the sky. Even a 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert might not be able to break open it. I'm afraid that only a 6-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert might be able to do so. Zhuo Xiangding looked at Zhuowen with some worry. Although Zhuowen had killed Shu Yu, his strength was at most comparable to a peak 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. The gap between a 6-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert and a 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert was enormous, so Zhuo Xiangding was worried. "Let's give it a try." The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. Suddenly, a 5-colored refining flame gushed out. Then, the ice flame sacred rune on the back of his hand erupted with a dazzling light. As for the blue crystal formed by the extreme cold, it slowly approached the 5-colored refining flame. Chapter 599. All rivers run into the sea outside Arid Peace Palace. A distressed figure passed by. He turned his head and glared at the massive Arid Peace Palace behind him. He coldly said, "Zhuowen, you damned bastard, Just you wait. The chamber beneath my arid peace palace is formed by a meteor that fell from the heavens. No matter how heaven-defying you are, you will never be able to break it. Once I gather masters, I will show you who's boss. This person was Shu Tianliang, who had just escaped from the chamber. At this time, his face was filled with fear. Zhuoan was far too terrifying, even Shu Yu had been forced back by him. If he were to face Zhuoan, he would undoubtedly die. Thinking of this, Shu Tianliang took out a jade token from his chest. The surface of the jade token shimmered with a brilliant light, sparkling and translucent. This jade token was a summoning jade token. Once it was crushed, it would emit special fluctuations of information. These fluctuations of information could be transmitted tens of thousands of miles away and could be used to summon the powerful elders of Hundred River Marquis Mansion. After all, Hundred River Marquis Mansion was one of the 5 super influences of the county capital. Those that could become elders were all at least at the extreme 5-wheel emperor realm. And Hundred River Marquis Mansion had elders with such strength in the double digits. Bang! Shu Tianliang fiercely crushed the jade token. Immediately, a strange fluctuation of energy spread out in all directions, spreading to every corner of Hundred River Marquis Mansion. As for the powerful martial artists in every corner of Hundred River Marquis Mansion, they all felt this strange fluctuation. Some martial artists even frowned. They knew that this was the aura of a summoning jade token. It's actually a summoning jade token. From the direction of the aura, it seems to be coming from Arid Peace Palace. Could the Crown Prince be in danger? The Crown Prince used the summoning jade token. Just who is so bold and strong to force the Crown Prince to use the summoning jade token? We have to immediately go to Arid Peace Palace. Those that dare to offend my Hundred River Marquis Mansion must be killed. Go to Arid Peace Palace. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After the martial artists in every corner of the Hundred Rivers Marquis Mansion sensed the aura of the summoning jade token, they all stepped forwards and shot towards Arid Peace Palace. They wanted to see just who dared to cause trouble in the Hundred Rivers Marquis Mansion. Over a dozen figures stepped through the void, all of them heading towards Arid Peace Palace. These figures all had vast auras, but judging from their auras, they were all at the 5-wheel Emperor realm or above. There were even a few 6-wheel Emperor realm powerhouses. In just an instant, most of the elders of the Baichuan Marquis Mansion were summoned by the summoning jade token. A vast aura surged over the Baichuan Marquis Mansion like a vast ocean. In the guest hall, Xu Chang, who had been feigning civility and drinking with Lu Nantian, felt his face twitch. He had also sensed the aura of the summoning jade token. This summoning jade token could only be sensed by those in the Marquis of Baichuan's residence who had reached the ultimate emperor realm. Arid Peace Palace sent it out? Could something have happened to Tianliang? Xu Chang frowned. He knew that if it weren't for a life or death crisis, Xu Tianliang wouldn't use the summoning jade token. After all, the manufacturing process of a summoning jade token wasn't simple at all. A small jade token required an extremely high price to make, so it wasn't easy to use. No. I have to go to Arid Peace Palace and take a look. Thinking about it, Xu Chang still didn't feel at ease with Xu Tianliang. He only had 2 sons in total. His second son, Xu Liang, had already been killed by Zhuoan in the Origin Energy Pagoda. Now that he only had Xu Tianliang as his son, he naturally couldn't feel at ease. Thinking of this, Xu Chang cupped his hands together towards Lu Nantian and said, "Brother Lu, I have some matters I need to attend to, so please excuse me for a moment." As Xu Chang spoke, he stood up, wanting to leave the hall. But just as he was about to step out, a powerful strength surged out, blocking the exit. Millimeter? Brother Lu, what is the meaning of this? Feeling the strength in front of him, Xu Chang's complexion darkened. He turned his head and coldly stared at the smiling Lu Nantian. He began to feel anxious in his heart. He didn't want anything to happen to Xu Tianliang. Haha. Brother Xu, it's rare for me to come to your Hundred River Marquis Mansion. You haven't properly received me yet. Isn't it too rude to leave like this? Lu Nantian slowly stood up, still smiling. Hearing this, Xu Chang's complexion changed. How could he not know that Lu Nantian was deliberately blocking him? He coldly humphed and said, "Brother Lu, this joke isn't good. I think you know the ins and outs of my 100 River Marquis mansion. You shouldn't be so stupid as to become enemies with us, right? Haha. Brother Shu's words are wrong. It's not that our house of Marquis Qin wants to become enemies with your 100 River Marquis mansion, but that your 100 River Marquis mansion wants a mile after taking an inch. I'm afraid you want to become the ruler of this county region, right?" Lu Nantian calmly said. Shu Chang's complexion changed. He frowned and said, "Lu Nantian, what do you mean by this? Just now, Arid Peace Palace's Tian Liang used the summoning jade token. Was this something your house of Marquis Qin did?" At this time, Shu Chang's tone had become impolite. He knew that Arid Peace Palace's crisis was likely related to the house of Marquis Qin. Since Lu Nantian had repeatedly blocked him, he might as well tear apart all pretense of cordiality and no longer be polite. So what if it is? So what if it isn't? Lu Nantian chuckled, ambiguously speaking. "Lu Nantian, have you forgotten the one hiding in 100 River Marquis Mansion? Do you dare to move against our 100 River Marquis Mansion?" Shu Chang's eyes became increasingly cold as he directly called out Lu Nantian's name. "Are you talking about Shu Lingtian? Ha, that old dog. Our house of Marquis Qin will naturally find him to settle accounts with. But first, we have to deal with your 100 River Marquis mansion." As Shu Lingtian was mentioned, Lu Nantian's smile faded away. Instead, it was replaced with a cold and gloomy expression. Bang! The aura of the Xuanzuan realm suddenly surged outwards like a volcanic eruption. The air boiled and space twisted. The atmosphere of the entire hall became extremely heavy, as if it were terrifying. "Today, I, Lu Nantian, am here to settle accounts with your 100 River Marquis mansion." Lu Nantian walked towards Shu Chang step by step, his aura rising. The previous patriarch, Lu Hantian, had been killed by Shu Lingtian. Even many geniuses of the house of Marquis Qin had been killed by Shu Lingtian. 100 years ago, his elder brother, Lu Hantian, had been schemed against by Shu Lingtian and was trapped in the Blood Devil inheritance land. The hatred of killing one's father and brother was simply irreconcilable. However, Lu Nantian had been enduring for nearly 100 years because he knew that the house of Marquis Qin was indeed much stronger than the 100 River Marquis mansion. However, Shu Lingtian was too strong. As long as Shu Lingtian was still alive, he wouldn't dare to touch the 100 River Marquis mansion. However, Lu Hantian's return had given him hope. Especially since Lu Hantian had reached the heavenly venerable realm, he knew that the time for revenge had come. Therefore, Lu Nantian didn't intend to endure any longer. "Lu Nantian, what are you trying to do? Don't you know about the existence of our ancestors? If our ancestors know that you dare to touch the 100 River Marquis mansion, your house of Marquis Qin will be finished." Shu Chang's expression was ugly. Lu Nantian's abnormal behavior made him somewhat uncertain. In the past, with Shu Lingtian's existence, Lu Nantian didn't dare to touch the 100 River Marquis mansion. Why was he acting so abnormally today? "Finished. I'll kill you first and let Shu Lingtian taste the feeling of losing a family member." LV Nantian sneered. With a stomp of his foot, a monstrous aura swept towards Shu Chang like a ferocious beast. Even Shu Chang's heart trembled at the sight of that aura. "Damn it! Lu Nantian, you forced me to do this." Seeing Lu Nantian rushing towards him, Shu Chang trembled with fear. Lu Nantian was much stronger than him. He screamed and fled from the hall. "Shu Chang, you won't be able to escape." The corners of LV Nantian's mouth curled into a sneer. He took a step forward and shot towards Shu Chang. Murderous intent burst forth from his eyes. He caught up to Shu Chang in an instant and sent a palm strike towards the latter's back. Shu Chang was shocked. He turned around and met Lu Nantian's palm. With a groan, Shu Chang was sent flying 100 meters away. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. "Shu Chang, you'll die today." LV Nantian followed up. Shu Chang's strength was much weaker than his, so he didn't put him in his eyes at all. LV Nantian blasted out another palm strike. Countless air currents in the void flowed chaotically. A terrifying palm of several thousand feet condensed and pressed down on Xu Chang. Lu Nantian, you forced me to do this. Do you think that my ancestor wouldn't be on guard against your house of Marquis Qin? It won't be that easy to kill me. Xu Chang's eyes flickered. A ray of light had unknowingly flashed in his finger. Then, the ray of light expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. It instantly became 1,000 meters tall. When the ray of light faded, it turned out to be a river several thousand meters long. It was like a huge dragon that surrounded Xu Chang's body, forming a perfect defensive circle. Boom, boom, boom. The 1,000-meter-tall palm slapped down, but it couldn't even move the sparkling river around Xu Chang. Armor soul, all rivers reach the sea. You've also reached the fourth venerable realm? Lu Nantian couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the terrifying river around Xu Chang. He knew that the armor soul of the house of Marquis Baichuan was the all rivers reach the sea. However, if a cultivator hadn't reached the fourth venerable realm, the armor soul wouldn't be able to materialize and its power wouldn't be unleashed. It would be useless. However, the huge river around Xu Chang's body was indeed the armor soul ocean containing all rivers. Furthermore, it was a materialized armor soul ocean containing all rivers. Only the four venerables could materialize armor souls. Haha. I haven't reached the fourth venerable realm and am still at the peak of the ultimate ninth wheel emperor realm. However, my ancestor's methods are extraordinary. He used a secret technique to materialize my armor soul in advance. Although its power can't compare to the real fourth venerable realm, it's more than enough to stop you. Xu Chang stepped on the huge river in the void and stared at Lu Nantian. His eyes were filled with coldness. The materialization of the armor soul was his secret trump card. Today, it was exposed because of Lu Nantian. This made him hate Xu Chang to the extreme. Xu Lingtian again? So what if you materialized the armor soul in advance? Your strength is only at the ultimate ninth wheel emperor realm. Do you think you're a match for me? Lu Nantian snorted coldly. His body overflowed with light like a small sun. Then, 3,000-meter-tall gates appeared in the void behind him. Each of them was indomitable and had a surging aura. On the surface of the gates, there were complicated runes that looked like tadpoles. Armor soul, sealed gates. Chapter 600. To settle old scores. The powerful aura was like a surging dragon, wreaking havoc in the entire sky. In an instant, strange phenomena appeared in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled. What's going on? Why is there such a terrifying phenomenon in the sky? Instantly, the entire province was attracted by Xu Chang and LV Nanshan's auras. When they saw the giant dragon-like river and the giant mountain-like door facing each other in the sky, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Soul armor materialization? Is this a battle between two fourth venerable realm experts? That's the sealed door of the house of Marquis Qin. I'm afraid that this person is the owner of the house of Marquis Qin, Lu Nantian. Who is the other person? Isn't that river the 100 rivers of the 100 rivers Marquis House's inheritance armor soul? That person is the lord of Baichuan Marquis residence, Xu Chang. When did Xu Chang advance to the fourth venerable realm and materialize his armor soul? Swish, swish. Numerous gazes converged on the two people in the sky as they instantly recognized the identities of Lu Nantian and Xu Chang. Naturally, there were even more people who were shocked by Xu Chang. Everyone knew that Xu Chang was only at the pinnacle of the ultimate nine wheels emperor realm. However, no one had expected him to be able to materialize the armor soul. This was something that could only be achieved by four supremacy realm cultivators. Whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, countless figures rushed over from all over the county capital and stopped 100 miles away from the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. They stared at the two people who were facing each other in the sky. Actually, everyone was puzzled. How did Lu Nantian and Xu Chang meet? At the same time, the master of the meteorite, Shenyuan Li of the sword raining school, and Qin Nai of the Marquis Yongsheng mansion also sensed the terrifying aura in the sky above the prefecture capital. Master, what's wrong? In the Jade Lady Star Court, Luo Xing looked at the master of the meteorite with a puzzled expression and asked, "Sai, the house of Marquis Baichuan and the house of Marquis Qin are in conflict. I'm afraid that Xu Chang and Lu Nantian are going to have a big battle." The master of the meteorite sighed. Xu Chang and Lu Nantian? Lu Nantian was a fourth Paragon realm expert. Would Xu Chang be a match for him? Also, is there any deep hatred between the house of Marquis Baichuan and the house of Marquis Qin? Luo Xing asked doubtfully. There's a secret here that you don't know about. Let's go to Marquis Baichuan's residence to take a look first. The master of the meteorite shook her head and waved her sleeve. An invisible energy wrapped around Luo Xing and left the Jade Lady Star Court. At the same time, Shenyuan Li of the ruling sword school and Qin Nai of the Marquis Yongxing's residence took Zhu Kai and Qin Batian and left their respective areas of influence. Their faces were grave. As the leaders of the superforces, Shenyuan Li and Qin Nai naturally knew about the secret between the house of Marquis Baichuan and the house of Marquis Qin. Although the house of Marquis Qin seemed to be far more powerful than the house of Marquis Baichuan on the surface, the house of Marquis Qin had that person. Even the house of Marquis Qin would not dare to provoke the house of Marquis Baichuan. If they really fight, I'm afraid the power structure of the prefecture capital will change greatly. Shenyuan Li and Qin Nai flew up into the sky. Their brows were furrowed with worry. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 streamers arrived in an instant and quietly floated above the house of Marquis Baichuan. The streamers converged to reveal 6 figures. Naturally, they were the master of the meteorite and Luo Xing of the Jade Lady Star Court, Shenyuan Li and Zhu Kai of the ruling sword school, and Qin Nai and Qin Batian of the Marquis Yongxing's residence. Xu Chang has also achieved soul armor realization. When did this guy break through? Looking at Xu Chang, who was surrounded by a huge river, Qin Nai's face was a little gloomy. Xu Chang's strength had always been on par with his. Usually, neither of them would submit to the other. But now, seeing Xu Chang's soul armor realization, Qin Nai's face was gloomy. No. Xu Chang's aura is still that of an ultimate 9-wheel emperor. This soul armor realization must have been made by that person for Xu Chang. After all, that person's strength is extremely terrifying. Shenyuan Li shook his head. Brother Shenyuan is right. Xu Chang hasn't reached the boundary of 4 revered. This soul armor realization should have been made by that person. Such methods are truly formidable. No wonder even the house of Marquis Qin didn't dare to be disrespectful to that person. The master of the meteorite said. As for the words of these 3 people, they left Luo Xing, Qin Batian, and Zhu Kai scratching their heads in confusion. The 3 of them simply didn't know of the grudges between the house of Marquis Baichuan and the house of Marquis Qin, so they were completely baffled. Should we try to persuade Brother Xu and Brother Lu? After all, the War of the 9 Counties is about to begin. If both sides suffer losses because of this, I fear it will be extremely disadvantageous for the war. Shenyuan Li hesitantly said. I fear it will be difficult. You also know of the blood feud between our 2 families. They didn't make a move before because the time wasn't right. But since they've made a move today, I fear our persuasion will be useless. The master of the meteorite shook her head. In the open space outside Arid Peace Palace, figures began to gather. Over a dozen figures instantly arrived in front of Xu Tianliang. Hi. Did something happen? Why did you suddenly use the summoning jade token? Over a dozen people landed. The one in the lead had white hair and a white beard. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, and as they flashed, they gave off a strange and soul-stirring feeling. This person's name was Xu Zhong and he was the leader of the inner court elders. His strength was extremely formidable, and it was said that he had reached the terrifying peak of the 6-wheel emperor realm. Behind him stood 2 old men with cold and indifferent expressions. Although these 2 old men's auras were inferior to Xu Zhong's, they were far stronger than an ordinary 5-wheel emperor realm martial artist. They should be early 6-wheel emperor realm powerhouses. These 2 old men were called Xu Kang and Xu Yong. They were Xu Zhong's left and right hands. These 3 6-wheel emperor realm powerhouses were in charge of all the inner court elders of the house of Marquis Baichuan. As for the other dozen elders, Their strength was around the five-wheel emperor realm. They all followed behind Xu Zhong with an obedient expression. Xu Zhong, you've finally come. That bastard Zhuo didn't die, but he actually managed to break into my arid peace palace's chamber. Those captured Zhuo family clansmen were all saved by that bastard. Xu Tianliang gloomily said. What? Zhuo didn't die? He escaped from the blood demon inheritance. Xu Zhong and the others couldn't help but be shocked. After the struggle for the Origin Energy Pagoda, there was no one in the county capital who didn't know the name Zhuo. After all, Zhuo's performance in the Origin Energy Pagoda had been far too sensational. In particular, when he finally chose the Blood Demon inheritance, everyone firmly remembered this name. Millimeter, I'm afraid this boy obtained a great deal of benefits from the Blood Demon inheritance. His cultivation has reached the middle stage of the five-wheel emperor realm, but the strength he displayed was terrifying. I fear he is comparable to a peak five-wheel emperor. Even Xu Yu was defeated by this boy. As Xu Tianliang recalled the terrifying strength Zhuo had displayed in the chamber, his complexion turned ugly. There was even a trace of fear mixed in. Even Xu Yu was defeated. Xu Zhong's eyebrows arched up. Xu Yu was also an inner court elder, but he was a true late-stage five-wheel emperor. If even Xu Yu was defeated by Zhuo, then it seemed that Zhuo's strength was no weaker than a peak five-wheel emperor. Hi Heir, don't worry. We have many inner court elders, and the weakest amongst them is at the early stage of the five-wheel emperor realm. No matter how heaven-defying that Zhuo is, I fear he will perish here. But, where is that boy now? Xu Zhong's face was filled with confidence. Zhuo's performance was indeed worthy of being called a genius, but he still hadn't grown up yet, so he didn't place him in Xu Zhong's eyes. But now, with so many elders gathered here, it was impossible for Zhuo to escape. Xu Tianliang nodded. He pointed at Arid Peace Palace and bitterly said, I've already trapped that bastard in my chamber. As long as we enter Arid Peace Palace, we can capture him. Elder Xu Zhong, remember to capture him alive. I will torture him to death. Millimeter, Hi Heir, don't worry. We will definitely accomplish this. Xu Zhong's lips curved up. Just as he was about to lead the many elders behind him into Arid Peace Palace, an aura suddenly erupted in the skies, causing the world to tremble. Immediately, Xu Tianliang, Xu Zhong, and the others looked up. They saw Xu Chang and Lu Nantian standing in the skies, facing off against each other. Both of them had summoned their respective armor souls. Is that Lu Nantian? What is this Lu Nantian doing? Could it be that he can't help but want to attack? Xu Tianliang frowned. He faintly knew some of the secrets of the past. Moreover, he also knew that within their 100-river Marquis mansion, there existed an ancestor with monstrous strength. When LV Nantian and Xu Chang appeared in the void, two figures with terrifying auras flew out from the depths of Marquis Baichuan mansion. One of them was in a white robe, while the other was in a black robe. The two of them instantly arrived in the skies above Arid Peace Palace. They silently stared at Lu Nantian and Xu Chang in the skies, a dignified expression on their faces. Greetings, highest elders. After Xu Tianliang, Xu Zhong, and the others saw these two old men, they all respectfully bowed. These two old men were highest elders. Their strength and status far surpassed that of inner court elders. Even Xu Tianliang didn't dare to slight them in the slightest. The two black and white old men only nodded. Then, they no longer paid attention to Xu Tianliang and the others below. Instead, they stared at the skies. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, countless experts from the province gathered around the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. Similarly, they stared unblinkingly at Xu Chang and LV Nantian in the sky. This was a battle between four Supreme Being-level experts. Who would easily let it go? I never thought that I would encounter a battle between two revered sovereigns in Muqing County's capital city. However, their auras aren't strong enough. They should be around the Xuanzuan realm. Let's just watch. A young man carrying a large saber that was over 3 meters long on his back stopped 50 kilometers away from Marquis Baichuan's estate, and he silently looked at Xu Chang and Lu Nantian, who were in confrontation. This person was precisely the young man with the large saber that was a battle maniac who insisted on fighting Zhuo Wen. Rumble, rumble, rumble. While everyone's gazes were gathered in the sky, an earth-shaking explosion suddenly sounded at this moment without any warning. Immediately, countless numbers of gazes gathered in that direction. They saw that in the skies above Arid Peace Palace in the northwest of 100 River Marquis Mansion, a 10,000-foot-long 5-colored lotus flower slowly bloomed in the skies. The petals unfurled one by one and a terrifying aura gushed out. Chapter 601. Red Sun Treasure Bowl Shua Shua Shua. Stunned gazes turned towards the youth that shot up from beneath Arid Peace Palace. Then, the surrounding atmosphere fell silent. That youth, is Zhuowen? Zhuowen actually came out from the blood demon inheritance. The master of the meteorite, Qin Nai, and Shenyuan Li all had stunned looks on their faces as they recognized this youth's identity. On the side, Fallen Star's eyes revealed a trace of astonishment, but this was soon replaced by joy. She didn't know why, but after seeing that Zhuowen was fine, she was actually overjoyed. Zhuowen's complexion was gloomy. He couldn't forget the scene of him being brutally beaten up by Zhuowen in the inheritance land. Now that he saw Zhuowen again, his complexion naturally wouldn't be good. It's Zhuowen. Didn't that Zhuowen die in the blood demon inheritance? How could he appear here now? The countless county capital masters gathered around the 100 River Marquis Mansion also recognized Zhuowen. They were well aware of just how terrifying the blood demon inheritance was. For this child to come out alive, it was clear that he wasn't simple at all. After breaking through Arid Peace Palace, Zhuowen also didn't think that there would be so many people around him. He couldn't help but reveal a stunned expression. When he was in the chamber, Zhuowen had tried to fuse together the 5-colored lotus. The terrifying power of the fusion had far surpassed his expectations. The entire Arid Peace Palace had been destroyed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Within the ruins of Arid Peace Palace, the members of the Zhuo family also appeared. They stood behind Zhuowen, vigilantly looking at the surrounding masters of the 100 River Marquis Mansion. Zhuowen, your methods aren't weak at all. You were actually able to destroy my Arid Peace Palace. Looking at the ruins of Arid Peace Palace, blue veins popped out on Xu Tianliang's forehead. This was his personal palace, and yet it had been destroyed by that bastard Zhuowen. This was simply a slap to his face. Elder Xu Zhong, you have to catch this boy alive. I want to slowly pull out his tendons, peel off his bones, and torture him to death. Xu Tianliang stared at Zhuowen and said word by word. His words were extremely vicious. Don't worry, Crown Prince. Today, he won't be able to escape. Once we capture him alive, you can do whatever you want with him. Xu Zhong chuckled coldly as he waved his right hand and said to the 10+ old men behind him, all of you, capture this kid. As for the others, kill them all. Whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, more than 10 old men with terrifying auras dashed out and surrounded Zhuowen and the others. Their eyes were filled with hostility. They're all ultimate 5-wheel Emperor realm martial artists. Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he looked at the dozen or so elders with surging auras. This Xu Tianliang was indeed ruthless. He actually gathered so many experts. Moreover, Zhuowen discovered that the auras of Xu Zhong and the other two standing beside Xu Tianliang were even more vast. Their strength had likely reached the ultimate 6-wheel Emperor realm. This discovery caused Zhuowen's expression to darken. Zhuowen, what should we do? Zhuo Xiangding arrived at Zhuowen's side, a worried expression on his face. Although he wasn't strong, his eyesight was quite unique. He could naturally feel that these people weren't easy to deal with. He was worried that they would become a burden to Zhuowen. Grandfather, you can rest assured that I will deal with these people. As for you all, you should stay here for a while. As Zhuowen spoke, he flipped his right hand and a golden light shot out from the spirit ring on his finger. It turned into a golden bowl that covered Zhuo Xiangding and the others. This golden bowl was a top-grade Earth-rank spirit treasure called the Red Sun Treasure Bowl. It was one of the spirit treasures that Zhuowen had obtained from the inheritance of the blood demon. As Zhuowen's physical strength was comparable to that of an Earth-rank spirit treasure, ordinary Earth-rank spirit treasures were useless to Zhuowen. Unless it was a mount-type spirit treasure like the bronze paper kite, offensive and defensive spirit treasures were of little value to him. After the Red Sun treasure bowl protected Zhuo Xiangding and the others, Zhuowen was slightly relieved. Then, he slowly twitched his cold bone spear and stared at the dozen or so elders around him. His gaze was indifferent, without the slightest fear. Zhuowen seems to be surrounded by the inner sect elders of the House of Marquis of Baichuan. This boy trespassed into the House of Marquis of Baichuan. The House of Marquis of Baichuan won't let him off easily. This boy is doomed. The weakest inner sect elder of the House of Baichuan is at the initial stage of the ultimate five-wheel emperor realm. With so many people joining forces, Zhuowen is indeed in a bad situation. 100 miles away from the House of Baichuan, many experts from the prefecture capital also noticed that Zhuowen was surrounded by the inner sect elders. They all shook their heads and sighed. With so many ultimate five-wheel emperor realm experts joining forces, this boy would not be able to escape even if he had wings. Moreover, the head of the inner sect elders, Xu Zhong, was watching from the side. No matter how heaven-defying Zhuowen was, it was unlikely that he would be a match for him. Therefore, not many people thought that Zhuowen would be able to escape. Luo Xing also noticed Zhuowen's current situation. She frowned slightly and said softly to the master of the meteorite, "Master, that's Zhuowen." However, the master of the meteorite interrupted her, "We can't casually step into these muddy waters. I've already helped Zhuowen protect his family and friends from being killed. Speaking of which, we've already repaid the favor we owe Zhuowen. Moreover, the House of Baichuan is not simple. Don't meddle in other people's business." Hearing this, Luo Xing's beautiful eyes flickered slightly, and a trace of sadness appeared on her pretty face. When facing the joint forces of the inner court elders of the Marquis estate of Baichuan, even she had no confidence in escaping, let alone Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen had appeared outside the Vitality Tower and might have obtained the Blood Demon's inheritance, so what if he had obtained the Blood Demon's inheritance? How much of the Blood Demon's inheritance could Zhuowen digest in such a short time? His strength was at most around the ultimate five-wheel emperor realm. Beside Shenyuan Li, Zhu Kai revealed a cold smile. He thought to himself, this Zhuowen really knows how to cause trouble. He actually dared to provoke the House of Baichuan. He's basically walking right into a trap. It looks like I don't have to do anything. This boy is going to die. Hey! It's that little brat that grasped spear intent. That fellow is really bold. He actually dared to break into a House of Baichuan. He's just a mere five-wheel emperor realm cultivator. I wonder how he'll escape. The youth with the large saber cried out in surprise. He immediately recognized Zhuowen from within the House of Baichuan, and a look of interest appeared on his face. He was well aware that any martial artist that could grasp a concept wasn't simple at all. However, although the youth with the large saber thought highly of Zhuowen, he still thought that Zhuowen's chances of escaping were extremely low. This was because he discovered that in the open space of Arid Peace Palace, besides the dozen some five-wheel Emperor Realm elders, there were also 3 other six-wheel Emperor Realm powerhouses. These 3 people were naturally Xu Zhong and the other 2. In the youth's opinion, if these 3 weren't here, then Zhuowen might have been able to escape. But now, the chances of that happening were infinitely close to 0. High up in the air, Xu Chang and Lu Nantian didn't directly attack. Rather, they stood facing each other from afar. Xu Chang also noticed the strange situation in Arid Peace Palace. He narrowed his eyes and said, "It's actually that little bastard Zhuowen? It seems that this little bastard broke into Arid Peace Palace with your help, right?" Lu Nantian didn't reply. He frowned, but he wasn't too worried about Zhuowen. After all, with his big brother Lu Hantian here, it was unlikely that anything would happen to Zhuowen. He. Now that he's been surrounded by the inner court elders, it's impossible for him to escape. This stupid little bastard, he actually dared to break into my house after escaping from the Blood Demon inheritance. He's simply looking to die. Xu Chang said once more. Lu Nantian shook his head. He sneered, "Looking to die? Haha, I don't think so. It looks like you have a lot of confidence in this little bastard. Then I'd like to see just how this little bastard will escape the encirclement of the inner court elders. Seeing Lu Nantian act like this, Xu Chang's eyelids jumped up. His words didn't seem like he was willing to admit defeat. His eyes followed Lu Nantian and fell onto Zhuowen. Zhuowen, I'll give you one last chance. Cripple your own cultivation and kneel on the ground and kowtow 3 times. Then, we can consider leaving you with your cheap life. We won't kill you so easily. Xu Zhong said loftily as he crossed his arms. Looking at you, it seems you've already decided to eat me. Haha, do you really think you can capture me by sending a bunch of chickens and dogs over? Zhuowen shook his head. The dozen-some inner court elders that surrounded Xu Chang all had ugly complexions. This Zhuowen was so arrogant that he actually dared to call them chickens and dogs. This was far too hateful. Humph. Whether or not you're chickens and dogs isn't up to you to decide. Once we capture you, you won't even have the qualifications to kneel and beg for mercy. You'd better think carefully. Xu Zhong frowned slightly. From his point of view, Zhuowen was merely an ultimate 5-wheel emperor. What did he have to compete with them? The final outcome was already set in stone. Why was this brat still so stubborn? You're not a dog. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Zhuowen shook his head and patted the green coffin on his back with his right hand. With a creak, the green coffin was opened by 1/10. A terrifying pressure instantly descended. The dozen or so inner court elders that were closest to Zhuowen felt the most terrifying pressure. Their bodies trembled, and their strength was suppressed by about half. Their faces were filled with shock. Clang. At the same time, Zhuowen moved. 2 pairs of lightning wings unfolded, and his entire body turned into a strange lightning bolt. He flashed past the surroundings and his speed soared to the extreme. In an instant, Zhuowen arrived in front of the closest elder. With a shake of his right hand, the bone spear pierced through the void and pierced the elder's forehead between his eyebrows. Seeing the rapidly approaching bone spear, the elder's face was filled with fear. He hurriedly raised his hand to block. Unfortunately, under the pressure of the blood demon, his strength had decreased too much. He hurriedly formed a defense, but it was broken through by Zhuowen like tofu. Splat. Blood spurted out. The elder's eyes were wide open. An inch-wide bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows, and he was no longer breathing. In an instant, an ultimate 5-wheel emperor had been killed. Xu Zhong and the others couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Whoosh! Zhuowen's figure didn't stop. Lightning flashed as he rushed toward the next inner court elder. Under the pressure of the blood demon, these ultimate 5-wheel emperor elders were suppressed too severely. At this moment, they were like weak scholars in front of Zhuowen. Splat. Blood splattered. Another 2 elders died under Zhuowen's bone spear. Their eyes were wide open, and they died with grievances. After 3 elders died, Xu Zhong finally reacted. His eyes turned blood-red. These inner court elders were the top fighting force of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. Nurturing one of them required a huge price. Now, 3 of them had been killed in the blink of an eye. How could Xu Zhong not be angry? Stop it for this old man. Chapter 602. Grand Elder Xu Zhong, Xu Kang, and Xu Yong were all ultimate 6-chakra emperors, and Xu Zhong was at the peak of the ultimate 6-chakra emperor realm. Although they were shocked by the terrifying pressure, it didn't affect them much. Ultimate 6-chakra emperors can't be compared to 5-chakra emperors. 1/10 of the pressure didn't affect him much. However, the pressure from the green coffin isn't just this little. Raising his eyebrows slightly, Zhuowen patted the green coffin again. The coffin lid opened by a 1/5, and a pressure several times more terrifying than before enveloped an area of several hundred meters with Zhuowen as the center. Terrifying cracks actually began to appear on the ground, and countless rocks floated in the air. Boom, boom, boom. An even more terrifying pressure descended, and Xu Zhong and the other 2's expressions changed slightly. They felt their bodies sink, and their movements became sluggish as if they were tortoises. What a terrifying pressure. It can even increase. How did this little bastard do it? Xu Zhong's expression changed slightly. A terrifying aura as vast as the sea surged out, and countless cyclones covered his body, completely blocking the terrifying pressure around him. Spurt. Another 3 streams of blood spurted out. While Xu Zhong and the other 2 were doing their best to resist the pressure, Zhuowen turned into a bloodthirsty Azura again. Lightning flashed, and another 3 heads flew. 3 inner sect elders had fallen. Only 5 breaths had passed since Zhuowen attacked, but nearly half of the inner sect elders had died. Only 7 inner sect elders remained, and they trembled under the pressure. Their eyes were filled with fear. Wasn't this young man a little too terrifying? In such a short period of time, the inner sect elders, who were all ultimate 5-wheel emperors, had been instantly killed by him. The impact of this on them was extremely shocking. Zhuowen, you little bastard, you deserve to die. Xu Zhong's eyes turned red when he saw that nearly half of the inner sect elders had died before his eyes. His face was filled with rage. These inner sect elders had been his followers and confidants for many years, and they were talents that the Marquis of Baichuan's residence had painstakingly nurtured. How could he not be furious when they died before him? Boom! Xu Zhong did not hold back at all as he unleashed the aura of a peak ultimate emperor. His powerful aura actually managed to faintly resist the corrosion of the surrounding pressure. He charged towards Zhuowen like a bolt of lightning. With a flip of his hand, a terrifying palm print slammed down. This is far from enough. Zhuowen snorted coldly. He stomped his feet and the 2 pairs of lightning wings on his back unfolded. His speed soared to the extreme. He was like a slippery loach as he dodged Xu Zhong's attack. Then, he continued to rush toward the other elders who were being suppressed. Damn it! Damn it! Seeing Zhuowen dodge his attack, Xu Zhong was extremely irritable. With his cultivation, it was actually not difficult for him to catch up to Zhuowen, but the pressure that Zhuowen released was like a towering mountain that constantly pressed down on him, causing him to be unable to fully unleash his strength. Whoosh! 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 The sound of breaking air rang out once more. This represented the fall of another inner court elder. Zhuowen was like a cold-blooded and merciless viper. He didn't show any mercy at all, and every strike he made was fatal. He was well aware that if he wasn't ruthless, then these people from 100 River Marquis Mansion would be even more ruthless than him. Since they had already formed a death grudge, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't be lenient. He had to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Peng! 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 The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground continuously sounded out, and then, without exception, the remaining 7 inner court elders all lost their lives under Zhuowen's 3-foot-long blade. The gurgling sound of water faintly sounded out in the silent open space. 100 River Marquis Mansion only had a total of 16 inner court elders. Now, 13 of them had died beneath Zhuowen's hands. This was truly a disastrous loss. Dead. 13 inner sanctum elders were all killed. Isn't this Zhuowen a bit too terrifying? All around 100 River Marquis Mansion, all of the powerhouses that were silently watching Arid Peace Palace suddenly burst into an uproar. They never thought that such an incredible scene would occur in a battle where there should have been a great disparity in strength. Originally, as far as they were concerned, Zhuowen would surely be unable to escape calamity under the encirclement of over 10 inner court elders. Yet now, they never imagined that not only did this kid survive, he even killed 13 inner court elders instead. In the entire 100 River Marquis Mansion, only Xu Zhong, Xu Kang, and Xu Yong remained. This was because besides the 3 of them, all of the inner court elders had been killed off by Zhuowen. How is this possible? How can this fellow's strength be so terrifying? Xu Tianliang's mouth fell open, his voice trembling. Even the master of the meteorite, Qin Nai, Shenyuan Li, as well as the distant Lu Nantian and Xu Chang, who were facing off in the void, were shaken. To instantly kill 13 extreme 5-wheel Emperor Realm inner court elders, Zhuowen's actions were far too shocking. That little bastard. Xu Chang's face darkened. He stepped forwards and the terrifying river in the void split apart, wanting to rush towards Zhuowen. This boy was far too great a threat, he had to be eliminated. Xu Chang. With me here, don't even think of touching Zhuowen. LV Nantien instead laughed loudly, and with a flick of his finger, a strand of light that was as thick as a thumb gushed out from the tip of his finger, and it actually directly shattered that strand of river. Zhuowen had instantly killed 13 inner court elders of 100 River Marquis Mansion. Lu Nantien was also shocked, but he was even more pleased. To be able to rub off on 100 River Marquis Mansion's prestige was naturally something he wished for. Black and white. How much longer do you two want to watch the show? Hurry up and kill that bastard Zhuowen. Xu Chang shouted towards the two old men in black and white robes in the skies above Arid Peace Palace. These two people were the highest elders of 100 River Marquis Mansion. They were extremely strong and were both ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouses. If the two of them joined forces, they were comparable to an ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouse. He could already feel the threat of Zhuowen. To be able to instantly kill 13 ultimate Emperor Realm experts, this boy was far too terrifying. He feared that even Xu Zhong and the other two might not be able to capture him. In the skies above Arid Peace Palace, black and white nodded as they heard this. In truth, they had also noticed Zhuowen's battle just now. Originally, they didn't care too much about it. This was because, in their opinion, the outcome of a dozen fifth-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm elders surrounding and attacking a young man who was also a fifth-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator was obvious. However, reality had played a huge joke on them. The young man had actually killed those 13 elders instead. The counterattack had happened too quickly, so fast that the two of them didn't even have time to react. 13 inner court elders have all fallen. For the Marquis Mansion, this can be considered a great loss. This boy must die. The black-robed old man stood high above, his cold eyes staring down at Zhuowen as he slowly spoke. Old Black, make your move. Although this boy is a bit strange, he isn't your match. The white-robed old man lazily said as he crossed his arms across his chest. The black-robed old man nodded. He stepped into the void and instantly landed on the ground. He stared straight at Zhuowen and said, "Heroes really do come from the youth. At such a young age, you actually possess such strength. You are truly extraordinary." As he spoke to her, the black-robed old man's voice suddenly became cold and gloomy. "However, you shouldn't have killed them. Since you killed them, you should have been prepared to die." As Xu Zhong, Xu Kang, and Xu Yong saw the black-robed old man descend, they respectfully cupped their hands together and called out Highest Elder. Then, they consciously retreated behind the black-robed old man. The three of them knew that since the Highest Elder had made his move, then Zhuowen was dead for sure. Naturally, there was no need for them to make an unnecessary move and interfere. At this moment, Xu Tianliang was standing respectfully behind the old man. The status of the Highest Elder was even more transcendent than his own. Even if it was him facing the black-robed old man, he didn't dare be the slightest bit presumptuous. With the Highest Elder making his move, Zhuowen is dead for sure. Xu Tianliang said in his heart. "Do you have any last words? Go ahead and say them." The black-robed old man's gaze was cold as he spoke indifferently. However, Zhuowen shook his head and said with a faint smile, "Last words? Perhaps you're overthinking it. I don't intend to leave any last words for myself. The one who should do this should be you." The black-robed old man's pupils constricted when he heard this. He was so angry that he laughed instead. "Good, good, good. Really good. Kid, I really don't know who gave you such courage. You still dare to speak arrogantly when you're about to die. It's just the truth." As he spoke, Zhuowen's body burst forth with a surging battle intent. He knew that the ultimate Emperor realm was indeed terrifying. However, with the demon-suppressing green coffin, he might be able to fight against a ultimate Emperor realm warrior. "Since you're so eager to die, this old man will fulfill your wish." The black-robed old man smiled sinisterly. The aura in his body gushed out like a volcanic eruption. The air floated up into the shape of an inverted funnel, instantly stirring up thousands of waves. A powerful aura spread out and covered the entire area. Under this aura, Xu Zhong, Xu Tianliang, and the others all retreated nearly 100 meters before they could barely stabilize their bodies. They stared at the black-robed old man in horror. As expected of the Highest Elder of their Baichuan Marquis Mansion. Just the aura he displayed was enough to make them tremble with fear and not dare to resist. The terrifying aura crushed down. Even Zhuowen couldn't help but groan and retreat continuously. Most of the black-robed old man's aura was directed at Zhuowen, so Zhuowen was affected the most. Nirvana of the great sun. With a low roar, Zhuowen's entire body burst with golden light. At the same time, Zhuowen patted the demon-suppressing green coffin again. With a bang, the coffin lid lifted by 1/5. A powerful aura gushed out in an attempt to resist the black-robed old man's aura. Zhuowen, your aura can't resist this old man's aura. Don't waste your energy. The black-robed old man laughed. An even more terrifying aura gushed out, instantly suppressing the aura of the demon-suppressing green coffin. Demon-suppressing green coffin, open 1/3. With a cold snort, Zhuowen opened 1/3 of the coffin lid without hesitation. This was also the limit that Zhuowen could withstand. He knew that if he didn't go all out, just the aura of the black-robed old man was enough to make him powerless. The ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm was too powerful. It was indeed very difficult for him to challenge the black-robed old man with his strength. Boom! 1/3 of the demon-suppressing green coffin's lid was opened. Wisps of blood-red aura rolled out from the gap of the coffin lid, instantly blocking the black-robed old man's terrifying aura. What? The aura has increased again? This guy. Chapter 603. Dragon and elephant seal. This Zhuowen is actually still holding back. Could it be that he simply did not use his full strength when fighting against us earlier? Seeing the young man who was standing with his back straight, the expressions of Xu Zhong and the others became ugly. They were very clear about how terrifying the black-robed old man's aura was. Even they had no choice but to retreat. However, not only did Zhuowen not retreat, he was even fearless. That strange pressure had unknowingly increased by more than several times. However, the more monstrous Zhuowen's performance was, the more intense Xu Zhong and the others' killing intent towards Zhuowen became. They knew that if this kid was allowed to fully mature, there would be endless trouble in the future. You're really not a simple kid. However, so what if you can block this old man's pressure? You're too weak. Quickly hand over your life. The black-robed old man shook his head. His gaze became as sharp as a blade. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Zhuowen as if he had teleported. His withered branch-like palm stretched out and pressed towards Zhuowen's forehead. Zhuowen's expression changed greatly. The black-robed old man's strength had greatly exceeded his expectations. He was ridiculously strong. With a low shout, he suddenly removed the demon-suppressing green coffin from his back. His right hand moved forward, and the green coffin blocked in front of him. Green light soared into the sky. Clang! The sound of metal clashing came rolling over like thunder. Soon after, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that the indestructible surface of the demon-suppressing green coffin had actually started to tremble intensely. Following that, a powerful rebounding force pushed him back repeatedly until he was more than 10 meters away. Standing still, Zhuowen felt his blood boil. This black-robed old man was too terrifying. Even though he had used the demon-suppressing green coffin to block, he was still injured. Was the ultimate emperor realm of the seven wheels so terrifying? Hey! I thought that the coffin on your back was an ordinary item. Looks like I was blind. It's actually so sturdy that it could completely block this old man's full-strength attack. The black-robed old man stared at the demon-suppressing green coffin in front of Zhuowen in shock. In the process of collision just now, his arms were actually a little numb. This green coffin was definitely not an ordinary object. Because Zhuowen possessed the concealment divine jade that Lu Hantian had given him, the black-robed elder did not realize that the demon-suppressing green coffin was a heaven-ranked spirit treasure. He only felt that this green coffin was not simple. Old Black, let's not waste any more time and deal with this brat as soon as possible. In the skies above Arid Peace Palace, the white-robed old man lazily stretched his waist. The white-robed old man's gaze never landed on Zhuowen. In his opinion, Zhuowen was a little special, but he was already a dead man. The white-robed old man would never pay too much attention to someone who was about to die. Don't worry. This time, I'll definitely finish him off in one strike. Although the black-robed old man was displeased by the white-robed old man's attitude, he did not refute it. The white-robed old man was stronger than him, and he was quite afraid of him. Brat. After you die, don't blame this old man for being cruel and merciless. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for being arrogant and reckless. The 100 River Marquis Mansion is not some marketplace where you can come and go as you please. The black-robed old man laughed coldly. Soon after, his feet suddenly stepped forward, and his hands formed an extremely complicated seal. Instantly, with the black-robed old man as the center, the yuan energy in the surrounding hundreds of miles started to boil and surge like boiling water. Dragon Elephant Law Seal. Use strength to become a saint. With a deep shout, the black-robed old man's hands formed seals like a storm, forming layer upon layer of seals. Suddenly, endless and terrifying golden seals appeared in the void. A blazing golden light flooded the entire horizon, as if it were a terrifying sea of fire. Within the terrifying golden light, there were actually earth-shaking dragon roars and elephant howls that surged out. It was as if millions of dragons and elephants were surging out from within the golden light. Their might intimidated the heavens and the earth. It's actually the Dragon Elephant Law Seal. This is a transcendent Emperor rank armor technique. After it is used, one's strength is boundless and comparable to the strength of dragons and elephants. It's boundless and terrifying to the extreme. This Zhuoan is dead for sure. A trace of a cold smile appeared on Xu Tianliang's face. After the black-robed old man used the Dragon Elephant Law Seal, he knew that Zhuoan was dead for sure. Rumble. The golden light that filled the sky became even more intense. In the end, it was like a dark cloud that crushed down on Zhuoan. Wherever the golden light passed, the roars of dragons and elephants sounded out continuously. It was as if there were countless dragons and elephants within the golden light. What a terrifying armor technique. I'm afraid that even an ultimate 7-wheel Emperor Realm expert wouldn't dare to take such a terrifying power head-on, right? At this moment, Zhuoan's expression was extremely solemn. The black-robed old man's Dragon Elephant Law Seal was extremely terrifying, and it was not something he could contend against. It looks like I'll need to use what Big Brother Hantian gave me. As he felt the terrifying golden light approaching him, Zhuoan suddenly lowered his head. His hawk-like eyes suddenly focused on the bone spear in his hands. On the surface of the bone spear, there were blue lines that resembled veins. These lines faintly revealed a mysterious concept. At this moment, all around the 100 River Marquis Manor, everyone was paying attention to the battle at Arid Peace Palace. In particular, after seeing the black-robed old man use the Dragon Elephant Law Seal, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They all knew that Zhuoan was finished. The Dragon Elephant Law Seal was a transcendent Emperor rank armor technique. It was incomparably powerful and terrifying to the extreme. Moreover, it was used by an ultimate 7-wheel Emperor realm powerhouse like the black-robed old man. Its power was immeasurable. Although Zhuoan's performance just now was heaven-defying and he had instantly killed 13 ultimate 5-wheel Emperor realm powerhouses, compared to the black-robed old man, there was still a considerable disparity. No one believed that Zhuoan would be able to block this strike. Haha. That bastard Zhuoan is dead for sure. Lu Nantian, what else do you have to rely on? Xu Chang proudly laughed. Lu Nantian's complexion was ugly. He coldly snorted and waved his hand. Under his control, one of the 3 giant gates floating in the void behind him flew towards Zhuoan. He wanted to help Zhuoan block the black-robed old man's Dragon Elephant Law Seal. Haha. Lu Nantian, don't break the rules. It won't be easy for you to make a move. Xu Chang sneered. With a stomp of his foot, the Milky Way-like river in the void cut through the void. Like a giant python, it directly wrapped around Lu Nantian's sealed door, not allowing it to leave at all. Bang! After Xu Chang's delay, the black-robed old man's Dragon Elephant Law Seal finally arrived above Zhuoan. Then, without any warning, it swallowed up Zhuoan's figure. Xu Chang, I think you're courting death. Looking at Zhuoan covered in golden light, Lu Nantian was furious and murderous. This Zhuoan was Lu Hantian's brother. He was extremely important to Lu Hantian. How could he be killed like this? If Lu Hantian knew about this, who knew what the consequences would be? As the dragon elephant law seal descended, everyone sighed. The dragon elephant law seal used by an ultimate seven-wheel emperor was enough to shatter mountains and rock. It was earth-shattering. No matter how heaven-defying Zhuoan was, it would be difficult for him to break it. If he couldn't break it, he could only die. What a pity for such a genius. Shenyuan Li, who was carrying a long sword on his back, shook his head and sighed. During the battle for the Vitality Tower, he had noticed that Zhuoan was not ordinary. Although Zhu Kai was eliminated by Zhuoan, he did not pursue the matter. After all, Zhu Kai was defeated by Zhuoan head-on. There was nothing to say. He knew that if such a genius participated in the Battle of the Nine Counties, he would definitely shine brightly. Unfortunately, he died prematurely. The master of Falling Star Garden and Qin Nai also revealed a look of pity on their faces. Obviously, they both had a fondness for Zhuo Wen. On the other hand, Luo Xing's beautiful eyes flickered slightly. She clenched her fists. For the first time, her beautiful face revealed a moved expression. This kid is dead. It's a pity that we can't capture him alive. The black-robed old man slowly descended. Looking at the figure trapped in the dragon elephant law seal, the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. Elder Heijia is indeed resourceful and unparalleled. This Zhuoan is just a clown in front of you. Xu Tianliang led Xu Zhong and the others to the old man's side and flattered him. Xu Tianliang's praise made the black-robed old man quite happy. He smiled and said, "Eldest crown prince is too polite. Since this Zhuoan is dead, then the rest of the Zhuo family members are up to you to deal with." Hearing this, Xu Tianliang's face revealed a touch of cruelty. He said to Xu Zhong and the other two, "You guys break open the Red Sun treasure bowl and kill these Zhuo family members." Zhuoan had almost taken his life. Xu Tianliang had a deep hatred for Zhuoan and the Zhuo family members. This time, he must eliminate the root of the problem and not leave any future troubles. Yes. Xu Zhong and the other two cupped their hands and rushed out. Each of them displayed a terrifying move and bombarded the Red Sun treasure bowl not far away. At this moment, Zhuo Xiangding and the others were in despair. Especially after Zhuoan was enveloped by the dragon elephant law seal. They were very clear about the terror of a seven-wheel ultimate emperor realm martial artist. No matter how heaven-defying Zhuoan was, the chances of him surviving were very low. Boom. 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 Suddenly, the surface of the Red Sun treasure bowl vibrated violently. All the members of the Zhuo family were frightened and gathered together. "Father, what should we do now?" "Zhuoan, Zhuo Beitian said to Zhuo Xiangding. At this moment, Zhuo Xiangding was out of his wits. His eyes dimmed and he smiled bitterly. "It's over. Zhuoan is dead. Our Zhuo family is finished. Our Zhuo family is really going to be exterminated." The members of the Zhuo family were silent. An atmosphere of fear pervaded the surroundings. Crack. A crisp cracking sound was heard. The Red Sun treasure bowl finally began to crumble under the combined attacks of Xu Zhong, Xu Yong, and Xu Kang. "Haha. Zhuo family members, die. After you die, you can go to hell and blame your Zhuo family for giving birth to a bastard like Zhuoan." Loud laughter filled the sky. Xu Zhong and the other two stepped on the void and rushed towards the despairing members of the Zhuo family. Their eyes were bloodthirsty. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When Xu Zhong and the other two were about to reach Zhuo Xiangding and the others, 3 bone-chilling rays of light whizzed through the void. It was like 10,000 years of mysterious ice. Then, Xu Zhong and the other two's figures suddenly stopped in mid-air. It was as if time had stopped. "You want to touch my Zhuo family members? You are not qualified." Chapter 604. Domineering Spear Intent Pucci. 3 streams of blood spurted out. Xu Zhong and the other two, who had stopped moving, covered their necks with their hands. Their eyes bulged and were bloodshot. The 3 streams of blood had appeared from their necks. Bang bang bang. In an instant, Xu Zhong and the other two fell to the ground. Their auras became weaker and weaker until they were no longer breathing. 3 ultimate six-wheel emperors had been killed in an instant. Not only was the black-robed elder stunned, but the white-robed elder, who was originally unconcerned, was also stunned. Xu Zhong and the other two represented the peak battle strength of the inner sect elders. Who would have thought that they would be killed in an instant? How is this possible? How did that little bastard Zhuowen's strength suddenly increase so much? Xu Tianliang could not help but exclaim. His eyes were filled with intense shock. Originally, Zhuowen's ability to kill 13 ultimate 5-wheel emperor elders in an instant was already extremely heaven-defying. However, the deaths of Xu Zhong and the other two had completely shocked Xu Tianliang. These were 3 ultimate 6-wheel emperors. There were less than 5 of them in the house of the Marquis of Baichuan. At this moment, Xu Tianliang was no longer looking at Zhuowen with resentment. Instead, he was looking at him with fear and shock. He began to wonder if this youth's strength was as unfathomable as a deep well. It was too easy for him to kill him. Thud, thud, thud. The crisp sound of footsteps slowly rang out. At this moment, Zhuowen's black hair was dancing in the wind. The bone spear in his hand continuously released an extremely terrifying aura. What was even stranger was that the surface of the bone spear was covered with blue veins that looked like meridians in a human body. A mysterious and terrifying aura surged along with the blue veins and surrounded Zhuowen. It was like a rising current of air that completely enveloped him. He was like a demon or a god with an imposing aura. This is spear intent. And it's an extremely terrifying and domineering spear intent. The black-robed old man's pupils shrank. At this moment, he actually felt a trace of threat from Zhuowen's body. In particular, the spear intent that erupted from the bone spear in Zhuowen's hand gave him a terrifying feeling of destruction. The originally lazy white-robed old man frowned slightly. For the first time, he looked at Zhuowen. He did not expect that Zhuowen would be able to grasp such a profound concept at such a young age. He was very clear about the terror of a concept. It was a terrifying realm that could greatly increase a martial artist's strength. Although it was illusory, its destructive power was absolutely far beyond that of a martial artist of the same level. A martial artist who had grasped a concept was absolutely invincible within the same realm, and could even challenge those of a higher realm. This was the privilege of a martial artist who had grasped a concept, and those who were able to grasp a concept were all terrifyingly gifted geniuses. Although the white-robed old man had not comprehended the concept, he had naturally heard of it. The concept was divided into the elementary level, the advanced level, and the peak level. Each level was sharper and more terrifying than the previous one. It was an extremely terrifying attacking method. This kid has really grasped a concept. Spear intent is about the way of the overlord. This kid is crazy and sharp enough. No wonder he can grasp spear intent. Unfortunately, he is only at the elementary level. Outside the Baichuan Marquis mansion, the youth with the large blade crossed his arms. He looked at Zhuowen with a fiery gaze. He had grasped the advanced level of saber intent, and had a unique view of concepts. At this moment, he could see the depth of Zhuowen's strength with just a glance. However, the youth with the large blade still had some doubts. He found that within the bone spear in Zhuowen's hand, there seemed to be an even more domineering and terrifying concept. This concept was absolutely far beyond the elementary level of spear intent. No wonder this kid was able to surpass LV Atao at the Zhongling Mountain and break the record. This kid's perception and potential are too terrifying. He even comprehended the illusory concept. This Zhuowen's future is limitless. Xian Yuan Li also stared at Zhuowen with a fiery gaze. The concept was a realm that every martial artist dreamed of. Xian Yuan Li had spent his entire life on the sword in order to comprehend sword intent. Unfortunately, his perception was not enough. After studying for nearly 100 years, he was still unable to comprehend sword intent. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to comprehend the concept. But now, Zhuowen had done it. How could Xian Yuan Li not be excited? He really wanted to see what the legendary conception was like. Perhaps he would be able to comprehend it a little because of this. Xu Chang, who was originally proud of himself, now had a slightly ugly complexion. He did not expect that Zhuowen could actually grasp spear intent. This talent and potential were really terrifying. The more terrifying Zhuowen's talent was, the more Xu Chang's killing intent surged. This kid must be eliminated. Otherwise, 10 years later, he would become a peerless powerhouse that could threaten his Baichuan Marquis mansion. Haha. Xu Chang, it seems that your wishful thinking is wrong. This Zhuowen is not simple. Lu Nantian let out a light breath and chuckled. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's mastery of spear intent, but he was even more excited. This kid is indeed terrifying. But with just elementary spear intent, do you think he can be a match for a 7-wheel ultimate Emperor realm martial artist? If that's what you think, then you're really wrong. Xu Chang shook his head, the corner of his mouth revealing a mocking smile. So what if Zhuowen grasped spear intent? The gap between him and the black-robed old man was too obvious. In the end, he would still be defeated. Hearing this, Lu Nantian frowned. However, he was not too worried. He did not believe that Lu Hantian would just watch Zhuowen fall like this. There must be some kind of backup plan. No wonder you can be called the biggest dark horse in this year's Essence Chi Tower battle. Your talent is indeed terrifying. But you only have elementary spear intent, and you want to compete with this old man? If that's the case, then you're just a fool's dream. Killing a monstrous genius like you is not a small achievement. The black-robed old man was stunned at first, but then he sneered again and again. He moved his feet and turned into an elusive black shadow, instantly disappearing. In the next second, he was already above Zhuowen's forehead. His withered branch-like palms stretched out, and the surrounding air suddenly boiled. Elementary spear intent is indeed not your opponent, but what if it's advanced spear intent? Zhuowen sneered. One must know that his bone spear was infused with a portion of Lu Hantian's spear intent. If it was fully unleashed, it would be enough to display the terrifying power of spear intent. With that, Zhuowen's footsteps shifted slightly. He raised his head and stared straight at the black-robed old man above, without the slightest intention of dodging. What is this kid doing? Is he looking to die? In the skies above Arid Peace Palace, the white-robed old man looked at Zhuowen's strange actions and couldn't help but frown. He didn't know why, but he actually felt a faint sense of unease. This boy is only at the ultimate 5-wheel Emperor realm. Although he has grasped elementary spear intent, it's unlikely that he will be Old Black's match. Old Black should be able to easily capture this boy. The white-robed old man chuckled, thinking that he was worrying too much. The black-robed old man's claw instantly arrived. In the blink of an eye, it was only an inch away from Zhuowen's forehead. The black-robed old man's lips curved up in a cold sneer. This boy would die without a doubt. At such a close distance, there was simply no way for him to dodge. Bang! All of a sudden, the bone spear in Zhuowen's hand moved horizontally, and the blue veins on the surface of the bone spear actually separated, turning into drops of blue water. A mysterious feeling surged, and the surrounding space actually started to distort. The black-robed elder's claw also came into contact with the surrounding blue water droplets. Following that, the smile on his face slowly froze. This was because he discovered that the moment his claw came into contact with the blue water droplets, it actually stopped moving. Whoosh! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out. Then, the black-robed old man's pupils constricted as he discovered that the tip of Zhuowen's bone spear had suddenly shot over at a terrifying speed. The tip of the bone spear, which was suffused with a cold light, instantly pierced through his claw. Poochie! Blood splattered into the air. The black-robed old man only felt pain in his arm. Then, he was shocked to discover that his right arm had been cut off at the shoulder. Ah! My arm, my arm. The black-robed old man suddenly flew backwards. Blood poured down like a curtain of rain. At some point in time, his right arm was already empty. The confrontation between the two had actually ended with the black-robed old man losing his arm. Hiss! Hiss! Gasps could be heard from the surroundings. The black-robed old man was the great elder of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. His strength was also at the ultimate 7-wheel emperor realm. Now, his arm had actually been cut off by Zhuowen. How did this Zhuowen do it? This guy's spear intent isn't at the elementary level at all. It's at the advanced level. This guy is even younger than me. How can he also comprehend the concept of advanced level? Outside the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, the young man with a large saber, who was originally leisurely, had an expression of shock on his face. The spear intent that Zhuowen had used just now was definitely not at the elementary level, but at the advanced level. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to cut off the black-robed old man's arm. Interesting. I originally thought that this little guy from Muqin County had only comprehended the elementary level of spear intent. I didn't expect that he had actually reached the advanced level like me. It seems that there will be a place for him on the Green Emperor list. The young man with a large saber smiled faintly as he muttered to himself. While everyone was still in shock, Zhuowen appeared extremely calm. He stepped on the air and his speed soared to the extreme. In an instant, he caught up with the black-robed old man who had been sent flying backwards with his arm cut off. This old man must be killed. Little bastard. How dare you? If you dare to kill Old Black, this old man will exterminate 9 generations of your family. A loud shout surged out. Following that, the originally languid white-robed old man roared towards the sky. His face was filled with shock and anger. He directly slapped his palm towards Zhuowen's back, wanting to stop Zhuowen. What a terrifying aura. This white-robed old man's cultivation is even more terrifying than the black-robed old man's. Could it be that he's an ultimate 8-wheel emperor? Feeling the terrifying aura behind him, Zhuowen's expression changed greatly. This white-robed old man was too terrifying. However, now was the best time to kill the black-robed old man. If he missed this opportunity, it would be very difficult to kill such an expert again. Moreover, Zhuowen also knew that as long as he killed the black-robed old man, the Marquis of Baichuan's residence would definitely suffer a great loss. This was an ultimate 7-wheel emperor expert. Such an expert was too rare. In the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, the only ones who were stronger than the black-robed old man were the white-robed old man, Xu Chang, and the mysterious Xu Lingtian. You want to stop me? It won't be that easy. With a cold snort, Zhuowen no longer held back. In an instant, he activated all of Lu Hantian's spear intent within the bone spear. Suddenly, the blue water droplets around him condensed and turned into blue ice crystals that revolved around him. Meanwhile, Zhuowen swept towards the black-robed old man without slowing down. Chapter 605. Stunning a Lu Hantian's spear intent was terrifying. When Lu Hantian had injected a portion of his spear intent into the dragon-scale tyrannical bone spear, he had said that no one below the ultimate emperor stage could hurt Zhuowen. From this, one could see how powerful Lu Hantian's spear intent was. The blue ice crystals formed by the terrifying spear intent revolved around Zhuowen. The white-robed old man's terrifying attack also arrived in an instant. However, under the effect of the blue ice crystals, it was directly shattered and turned into ashes. Swoosh! Swoosh! At the same time, the blue ice crystals swept towards the white-robed old man like a curtain of rain, causing him to retreat in a rather sorry state. His face was extremely gloomy. How is this possible? How can this child possess such terrifying spear intent in his body? How old is this Zhuowen? How can he comprehend the concept of perfection at such a young age? As he blocked the blue ice crystals in front of him, the white-robed old man continuously retreated in the void. His expression was even more unsightly. However, his heart was like a raging storm that was extremely unsettled. Poochie. As the white-robed old man retreated, a pillar of blood shot into the sky and a large head flew into the air. Zhuowen had actually killed the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man's head flew high into the sky. The fear and shock on his face had completely frozen. It was as if time had stopped and stayed on his face for a long time. Following that, the entire area fell into a strange and long silence. Everyone raised their heads in tacit understanding and their gazes converged on the frozen head. Gulp. Finally, The black-robed old man's head fell to the ground with a thud. After rolling a few times on the ground, it came to a complete stop. Hiss. Hiss. Instantly, everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Grand Elder of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, Old Black, had fallen just like that. Such an outcome was truly unacceptable to the surrounding people. This was a 7-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator. Just like that, he had been killed by Zhuowen right in front of them. After the silence, an earth-shattering uproar surged through the surroundings. Dead. The Grand Elder of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, Old Black, has actually died just like that. How did this Zhuowen do it? Isn't he only at the ultimate emperor stage? With such strength, how did he manage to kill Old Man He? Gasps of surprise, uproar, and clamor filled the surroundings of the Baichuan Marquis mansion like a tsunami. The death of Old Man He had shocked everyone. Mother **K, is my eyesight is failing me? That was the highest level of concept power. Has this fellow's spear intent reached the terrifying peak of perfection? He Han Xian's body tremors could not help rubbing his eyes. He could not help but exclaimed shock was the Marquis of size. Just now, Zhuowen's spear strike had been too stunning. Not only had he blocked the attack of the white-robed old man, but he had also taken the black-robed old man's head with a single strike. Even the young man with the large saber was impressed by such a stunning spear strike. He knew that the concept of that spear strike had far surpassed his saber intent. He had mastered the advanced saber intent, so the only thing that could surpass his saber intent was the peak of perfection. He knew that Zhuowen's last strike had definitely used the peak of perfection spear intent. Phew. This kid is terrifying. The young man with the large saber squinted his eyes and looked at Zhuowen with fear. Originally, he had wanted to spar with Zhuowen for fun, but now he realized that the young man in front of him, who did not have a high cultivation, actually gave him a great sense of pressure and threat. Creak. The smile on Xu Chang's face completely froze. He stared at Zhuowen below and his body trembled uncontrollably. The black-robed old man was the supreme elder of the Marquis mansion and one of the higher-ups of the Marquis mansion. But now, he had fallen in front of him. How could Xu Chang not be agitated and angry? Zhuowen, you little bastard, you dare to kill the black-robed old man. Who gave you the courage, you little bastard? Xu Chang stared at Zhuowen below and his voice was full of resentment. Who gave me the courage? Xu Chang, you old dog, you're really full of yourself. You've tried to harm me time and time again. Now, you've even captured a member of my Zhuo family. You're saying that I shouldn't be killed for this grudge. You can't be so shameless. Are you saying that only you can kill my people and I can't kill yours? But don't worry, I won't let your son, Xu Tianliang, go. Holding the bone spear, Zhuowen's smile grew colder. He took a step and rushed toward Xu Tianliang, his face full of murderous intent. Xu Tianliang, today is the day you die. Zhuowen's loud and clear voice resounded throughout the entire open space like rolling thunder. Damn it! Looking at Zhuowen rushing toward him, Xu Tianliang's face changed greatly and his body trembled involuntarily. The strength that Zhuowen had displayed was too terrifying. Even the Supreme Elder, the black-robed old man, was killed by him. How could he be a match for him? Elder White, save Tianliang quickly. Xu Chang's eyes became extremely anxious. Although he wanted to go down and help Xu Tianliang, unfortunately, Lu Nantian was watching him from the side. He had no chance to do anything and could only let the white-robed old man do it. The white-robed old man's strength was above that of the black-robed old man. He was an ultimate Emperor realm expert and believed that he could stop Zhuowen. The white-robed old man also knew the seriousness of the matter. With a shake of his sleeve, a powerful force surged out and instantly shattered the blue ice crystals in front of him. He took a step in the air and instantly appeared behind Xu Tianliang. His withered hand grabbed Xu Tianliang's collar. Suddenly, Xu Tianliang was lifted off the ground and the white-robed old man retreated dozens of meters away with Xu Tianliang. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen's bone spear arrived as expected, slamming into the ground where Xu Tianliang had just been standing. Instantly, a ring-shaped wave of air spread out, with the bone spear as the center, Several li of the ground collapsed, turning into rubble and ruins. Do you think you can escape? Looking at Shu Tianliang being taken away by the white-robed old man, the murderous intent on Zhuowen's face became even more intense. His right hand touched the shaft of the bone spear, intending to completely release the powerful spear intent that Lu Hantian had stored inside. Rumble. After completely releasing the spear intent, the blue veins on the surface of the bone spear gradually disappeared. However, the power of concept around Zhuowen had reached an extremely terrifying level. Blue veins emerged from under Zhuowen's feet and extended to the surface of his body. Instantly, the surface of Zhuowen's body was covered with pulsing blue veins. At the same time, the power of Zhuowen had also risen to an extremely terrifying level. Zhuowen could not help but be startled as he felt the aura that had suddenly erupted within his body, as well as the numerous blue veins that covered the surface of his body. He did not expect that such a situation would occur when he completely activated the spear intent within his bone spear. The blue veins that covered the surface of his body were formed by Lu Hantian's spear intent. Now, Zhuowen's every move could unleash a portion of Lu Hantian's spear intent's power. It was equivalent to a clone of Lu Hantian, possessing a portion of Lu Hantian's power. Although Zhuowen's strength was still only at the ultimate emperor realm, with the support of Lu Hantian's terrifying concept, no cultivator below the ultimate emperor realm would be able to harm him. The white-robed old man was only at the ultimate emperor realm. If he wanted to harm the current Zhuowen, it was simply a pipe dream. If Zhuowen went all out, the white-robed old man might even be in danger. Let go of Shu Tianliang, or die. Zhuowen, who was covered in blue veins, looked rather strange and sinister. At this moment, his calm and cold eyes stared straight at the white-robed old man as he spoke each word clearly. The white-robed old man's face twitched. He could feel that Zhuowen's power was terrifying at this moment. He actually felt a trace of threat from this person. Although your spear intent is indeed terrifying, I'm afraid you're still not qualified to make me let go of the crown prince. Although I'm rather surprised that you were able to kill old He, I'm not old He. I'm much stronger than him. If you want the crown prince, don't even think about it. The white-robed old man narrowed his eyes. His voice was extremely low, but his tone was not that unyielding. If that's the case, then you can accompany your crown prince to the Yellow Springs together. With that, Zhuowen took a step forward, and a blue shadow flashed through the void. He instantly arrived in front of the white-robed old man and swung his spear. It was a simple spear, but it contained an extremely terrifying intent realm. When the intent realm exploded, the surrounding space collapsed and distorted, and the crisp sound of glass shattering could be heard. The white-robed old man's eyelids twitched. Zhuowen's simple spear actually gave him a feeling of fear and trepidation. How could a mere ultimate emperor realm fifth wheel erupt with such terrifying spear intent? 5 dragons capturing hand. The white-robed old man shouted in a low voice. A claw that resembled a withered branch stretched out from the void. Instantly, a terrifying dragon roar resounded from the void behind him. Then, 5 humongous chi dragons broke through the void and rushed over. The 5 dragons were in 5 different directions, vaguely forming the shape of a claw. They flew directly towards Zhuowen with a terrifying aura and monstrous might. Zhuowen was awe-inspiring and fearless. He took several steps forward in the void, and waves of air swirled and spread. The bone spear was like a venomous snake, turning into a cold light that filled the sky. It shuttled between the 5 dragons at a tricky angle. Boom! 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 Instantly, the 5 terrifying dragons in the void cried out in pain. Their huge heads exploded, and all of them disintegrated into powder. What? The 5 dragons capturing hand was broken? The white-robed old man's expression changed drastically. Ever since Zhuowen erupted with his terrifying spear intent, he seemed to be a little too strong. Even his most powerful 5 dragons capturing hand was broken in an instant. Die. Zhuowen's expression was extremely cold. The bone spear in his hand pierced out again. Instantly, a terrifying shadow of the spear was left in the surrounding space. This shadow was produced when the spear intent reached an extremely terrifying level. Damn it! Block it for me! The white-robed old man shouted in a low voice. He held Shu Tianliang in his left hand, and his right hand pointed at the void again. Immediately, a giant door of 100 feet appeared in front of him, wanting to block Zhuowen's fatal strike. The shadow of the spear arrived in an instant and pressed against the giant door, making a crisp sound. Then, the giant door collapsed inch by inch. The spear's momentum did not diminish as it swept past the white-robed old man. Poochie. Chapter 606. Fight to the death plop. The white-robed old man fell to the ground. Blood spurted out and splashed onto Shu Tianliang's face. Shu Tianliang was stunned. Dead. The white-robed old man is dead too. At this moment, Shu Tianliang collapsed. He sat on the ground and stared at the young man with a spear in front of him. Too terrifying. Zhuowen is too terrifying. Even the two supreme elders were killed by him. Is he still human? At this moment, Shu Tianliang had no intention to fight. He was terrified. He knew that the gap between him and Zhuowen was too big. It was impossible for him to defeat Zhuowen. Zhuowen, let me go. I beg you to let me go. Aren't your Zhuo family clansmen still alive? I only beg you to let me go. I'm willing to give up everything. The strong fear made Shu Tianliang weak on the ground. His body was trembling and he started to beg for mercy. Zhuowen's strength was like a mountain that pressed down on his heart. Shu Tianliang even started to regret. He regretted provoking Zhuowen. He knew that Zhuowen would not put him in his eyes with his speed of growth. However, he thought he was smart and wanted to capture Zhuowen's family. He was just looking for trouble. Deng deng deng. Zhuowen came in front of Shu Tianliang. He grabbed Shu Tianliang's neck and slowly lifted him up. His face was expressionless and cold. Zhuowen, you little bastard, let go of Tianliang, otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Shu Chang, who noticed the commotion, could not hold it in anymore. Especially when he saw Zhuowen talking about Shu Tianliang, his heart was in a mess. Now, he only had one son. If he died so tragically, then there would be no successor. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Zhuowen's gaze turned cold. At this point, Shu Chang still dared to put on airs in front of him. With a cold snort, Zhuowen slowly turned around. With Shu Tianliang in his right hand, he faced Shu Chang and spoke in a clear voice. Old dog Shu Chang, do you think you're qualified to say this to me? Back then, you shamelessly schemed against me many times. If I wasn't lucky, I'm afraid I would have died a violent death. But at that time, did you ever think of letting me go? That's fine. I don't blame you for dealing with me. After all, I did kill people from your house of Marquis of Baichuan. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have dealt with my family and friends. Since you've done it, don't blame me for being ruthless. It's Zhuowen's family and friends. Since you've done it, you'll have to pay the price. At this point, Zhuowen's right hand suddenly exerted force. Then, Shu Tianliang stopped struggling completely. His head was twisted irregularly and tilted to one side. His eyes were round, and he died with remaining grievances. As soon as Shu Tianliang died, the entire Baichuan Marquis mansion fell into a strange silence. Zhuowen's performance was too shocking. The Marquis of Baichuan had sent out all the inner court elders to surround and annihilate Zhuowen, but they were all killed by Zhuowen. Not a single one of them survived. Even the two mysterious supreme elders had fallen at Zhuowen's hands. In an instant, the elite masters of Baichuan Marquis Mansion were almost all dead. This time, Baichuan Marquis Mansion suffered a great loss. Shu Chang's only son, Shu Tianliang, was finally killed by Zhuowen. Such a result made everyone feel a little incredulous. Baichuan Marquis Mansion besieged Zhuowen with murderous intent, but in the end, it ended up like this. It was really dramatic. Zhu Kai, do you still want to provoke Zhuowen? Remember, you're not allowed to provoke him in the future. Otherwise, don't expect me to save you. Shenyuan Li suddenly said to Zhu Kai he knew very well that there was a certain grudge between Zhu Kai and Zhuowen. Now, seeing Zhuowen's terrifying strength, even Shenyuan Li had to treat him seriously. Zhuowen's scarlet eyes flashed slightly. He was really shocked by Zhuowen's shocking move. Even if Shenyuan Li didn't say it, he didn't intend to provoke Zhuowen. Otherwise, Xu Tianliang's end was likely to repeat on him. The master of the meteorite's beautiful eyes flashed slightly and sighed. Zhuowen is really a genius. It seems that Qinglian made the right choice to befriend him. Luo Xing nodded. Her eyes were like stars in the night sky, staring straight at Zhuowen's figure. In her beautiful eyes, there was a strange color. The young man with the bone spear in his hand, his black hair fluttering in the wind, and with a wave of his hand, instantly killed the inner elder of Baichuan Marquis Mansion. At this moment, it seemed that he had a strange charm, attracting Luo Xing's gaze and making her involuntarily sink into it. Zhuowen, you are the first man that I admire. Luo Xing murmured in a low voice, her beautiful eyes flashing with light. At this moment, the young man with the large saber frowned slightly and muttered to himself, the terrifying spear essence just now didn't seem to come from this boy, but from the bone spear in his palm. That spear essence doesn't seem to be this boy's spear essence. Could it be that some expert poured his own spear essence into this boy's bone spear? The young man with the large saber had a mysterious origin, and his understanding of sword essence far exceeded that of others. At this moment, he could tell that there was something wrong with the spear essence on the surface of Zhuowen's body at a glance. He didn't believe that Zhuowen, at such a young age, could have comprehended the peak of spear essence. This was simply too heaven-defying. The young man with the large saber was not far from the truth. The terrifying spear essence on Zhuowen's body did not come from him, but from Lu Hantian, who had poured his own spear essence into the bone spear. If it hadn't been for Lu Hantian's spear intent, Zhuowen's strength would at most be comparable to the early stage of the six-wheel emperor realm. Xu Zhong, who was the head of the inner sect elders, would have been able to get rid of Zhuowen completely. Zhuowen, you little bastard, how dare you kill Tianliang? Today, I will definitely destroy you. Not only you, but even your family and friends will be wiped out. An earth-shaking roar resounded throughout the heavens and earth. Then, Xu Chang's eyes turned red. He directly urged the huge river in the void to sweep towards Zhuowen. Its speed was so fast that the sky was immediately covered by the huge river. Xu Chang, with me here, let's see how you'll kill Zhuowen. Lu Nantian sneered. He put his hands together, and the three sealed doors behind him suddenly descended from the sky. They directly suppressed the terrifying river in the void, causing it to be unable to move at all. Lu Nantian, you're really something. Do you think that you can destroy my house of Marquis Baichuan today? I think you're too naive. I originally didn't want to disturb my ancestor, but you forced me to do so. Today, your house of Marquis Qin will definitely be destroyed. Xu Chang roared. He actually took out a jade pendant and crushed it. Then, an earth-shattering aura gushed out from the depths of the house of Marquis Baichuan. It was as if there was a terrifying primordial beast, hidden in the depths of the house of Marquis Baichuan. Lu Nantian raised his eyebrows, but a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Xu Chang was finally going to summon Xu Lingtian. Earlier, when the inner elders were killed by Zhuowen, this guy didn't summon Xu Lingtian. Xu Lingtian was probably still in seclusion. Lu Nantian immediately thought of some possibilities. He knew that Xu Lingtian hadn't appeared for a long time, so it was very likely that he was still in seclusion. What a terrifying aura. This aura is even more terrifying than Lu Nantian's. Could it be that there's a fourth reverend realm expert in the house of Marquis Baichuan? When the terrifying aura burst out from the depths of the house of Marquis, many of the surrounding experts were shocked. The aura was so powerful that it made them tremble. Swoosh! A figure flew out from the depths of the house of Marquis Baichuan. The aura around him surged, causing the air to flow backward and the space to collapse. It was an old man with a sharp gaze and a head full of silver hair. He wore a black robe that fluttered without wind. The aura that he emitted was as vast as the sea. It was incomparably fierce. The old man saw Xu Chang, who was in a disadvantageous position not far away. His eyes flickered as he coldly shouted, Lu Nantian, how bold of you to dare to offend my house of Marquis Baichuan. Do you plan on following in Lu Haoran's footsteps? As the old man spoke, he flicked his finger. A powerful strength condensed into a bullet that shot out. Immediately, Lu Nantian's 3 ceiling gates began to collapse inch by inch. Lu Nantian stuffily coughed as he drew back again and again. Blood flowed from the corners of his mouth as he gloomily glared at the old man. Who is this old man? He broke through Lu Nantian's ceiling gates with a single move and even caused him to draw back with injuries. The surrounding powerhouses were all shocked. This old man that suddenly appeared was ridiculously strong. No matter how Lu Nantian was a powerhouse of the Xuanzuan realm, he still wasn't able to withstand a single move from this old man. This old man's strength was absolutely above that of the Xuanzuan realm. Xu Chang. What is going on here? The old man stepped into the void and arrived beside Xu Chang. As he looked at the mess around Arid Peace Palace, he frowned. Ancestor. The inner court elders have all died. Even the 2 highest elders and Tian Liang have died. Xu Chang said, his face full of sorrow. What? The inner court Zhonglai and the highest elders have died. Who did this? The old man's face turned gloomy when he heard that. The inner elders were the mainstay of the house of Marquis Baichuan. They were almost half of the foundation of the house of Marquis Baichuan. The 2 supreme elders were the trump cards of the house of Marquis Baichuan. They were the foundation of the house of Marquis Baichuan. But now, Xu Chang said that the inner court elders and highest elders had all died. How could the old man not be shocked and angry? It's that little bastard Zhuowen. Xu Chang pointed at the open space of Arid Peace Palace and pointed at the spear-wielding youth, his face full of hatred. He knew that since Xu Lingtian had appeared, then Lu Nantian and Zhuowen would all die. Even the house of Marquis Qin would be finished. Thus, he became fearless. What? They were killed by this brat? Are you sure that the inner court elders and highest elders were killed by this brat? The old man's complexion immediately turned ugly. He thought that Xu Chang was playing with him. This Zhuowen didn't even look 20 years old, so how could he possibly have the strength to kill the inner court elders and highest elders? It was indeed him. This junior really doesn't dare to deceive ancestor. Xu Chang anxiously said. Enough, enough. Since that's the case, I will eliminate this brat first. If he dares to kill the people of my 100 Rivers Marquis mansion, then he is simply seeking death. Chapter 607. Danger surrounded by danger. The old man didn't really care about Zhuowen. From his point of view, Zhuowen was merely a 5-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator, even if he could crush him with a casual strike. Rumble. The huge palm tore through the void. The space overlapped, forming an endless palm imprint. Countless black holes formed, creating a terrifying spiral of qi. This palm was extremely terrifying, basically locking down all of Zhuowen's escape routes. What a terrifying person. A casual attack actually has such power. This person should be the ancestor of the Marquis of Baichuan, Xu Lingtian. Feeling the huge palm print pressing down, Zhuowen's face was extremely gloomy. This Xu Lingtian was indeed an existence that far surpassed Lu Nantian. Just this palm alone made him feel powerless. It really is Xu Lingtian. Xu Lingtian has actually stayed in the Marquis of Baichuan for nearly 100 years. It seems like he is really determined to seize the position of the county lord. Shenyuan Li frowned slightly, looking at Xu Lingtian with eyes full of fear. Xu Lingtian was already at the peak of the Golden Venerable Realm 100 years ago. Now that 100 years had passed, Xu Lingtian had probably taken the last step to reach the Heavenly Venerable Realm. And once he reached the Heavenly Venerable Realm, he would be able to obtain the Central Imperial Capital's Azure Emperor's reward. It would probably be a small matter for him to replace the county lord of Muqin County. Zhuowen is finish. Xu Lingtian's cultivation is too terrifying. This kid can't possibly block it. It's a pity that such a genius falls like this. Qin Nai shook his head, his voice full of regret. The master of the meteorite frowned slightly. She didn't expect that Xu Lingtian would directly attack Zhuowen the moment he came out, wanting to kill Zhuowen. Although she had a good impression of Zhuowen, she didn't think that Zhuowen could block Xu Lingtian's attack. Standing beside the master of the meteorite, Luo Xing's heart was beating extremely fast. A rare look of worry appeared on her pretty face. Looks like we have to go all out. We have to block this attack. Big Brother Hantian's spear intent can still be used once more. I hope this time it will be able to block this attack. Zhuowen's expression turned extremely grave as he watched the palm print shatter the void, shatter space, and reverse time. He wiped the tip of the spear with his right hand, causing blood to spill out. Instantly, the remaining spear intent within the bone spear completely erupted. Countless blue veins shot out from the surface of the bone spear, forming a blue spear shadow that was hundreds of feet long in the air. A terrifying intent realm exploded, containing an unconcealable murderous aura. The spear was the path of the Overlord. It was unrestrained and unrestrained. This terrifying blue spear shadow had pushed the spear intent to the extreme. It was as if it was the sole ruler of the world, and no one in the 9 heavens and 10 earths could rival it. This was spear intent, the concept of the spear. It was pitilessly overbearing yet unrestrained, and capable of looking down upon all mountains. The blue spear shadow, which was hundreds of feet long, shot out in the void, bringing with it countless blue spear prints. Layer upon layer, they accumulated in the surrounding space, almost forming a domain around it. It looked exceptionally terrifying. Rumble. At this moment, the huge palm print slammed down like a mountain, directly smashing onto the blue spear shadow. The blue spear shadow was awe-inspiring and fearless, and the terrifying spear intent exploded, transforming into the power of the domain, wanting to block this terrifying palm print. Rumble. The two merged in the void, and instantly, an extremely terrifying ring-shaped chi wave burst out. The surrounding space collapsed inch by inch, turning into fine powder. The air flowed upwards, forming a spectacular inverted waterfall, with countless black holes faintly appearing. Catcher. The terrifying explosion subsided, and the spear shadow and palm print were annihilated in the void. The two were actually evenly matched. Poochie. Although the palm print was offset by the spear shadow, the aftershock that was transmitted caused Zhuowen to involuntarily vomit blood. He retreated more than 10 steps, and a trace of horror appeared on his face. The difference in strength between him and Zhuowen was too great. Just the aftershock was enough to injure him. If not for Lu Hantian's spear intent, Zhuowen would have been annihilated into fine powder long ago. Spear intent. And it's the peak of spear intent. How old is this kid? How can he possess such a terrifying spear intent? Xu Lingtian frowned slightly, and there was a trace of shock in his eyes. No wonder Xu Chang said that the inner sect elder and supreme elder had died at the hands of this kid. This spear intent was too domineering. Perhaps even those below the ultimate 9 wheels emperor stage might not be able to block this terrifying spear intent. Ancestor. Be careful. This kid relied on this spear intent to kill the inner sect elder and the 2 supreme elders, Xu Chang said with a solemn expression. Humph. This spear intent is indeed terrifying, but it's a pity that it doesn't belong to this little demon himself. It should have been injected into his bone spear by some powerhouse. Just now, when he blocked this king's palm, I'm afraid that the remaining spear intent has already been exhausted. Xu Lingtian snorted coldly. His cultivation level was extremely high, and he could see the truth of Zhuowen's spear intent at a glance. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. This kid seems to have a lot of secrets. When I capture him and interrogate him properly, I might be able to obtain some secrets from him. Xu Lingtian chuckled and attacked again. Once again, a terrifying palm print descended from the sky. He was confident that Zhuowen definitely did not have the ability to block this attack. This time, he must capture this little bastard. Looking at the condensed palm print, Zhuowen's eyelids twitched, and the ominous feeling in his heart grew even stronger. Now that the spear intent in the bone spear had been completely exhausted, he had no means to block Xu Lingtian's palm print. Big Brother Han Tian. How long are you going to watch this show? Hurry up and attack. After calming down a little, Zhuowen suddenly roared towards the sky. He knew that Lu Hantian was silently looking down from thousands of miles above. He did not believe that Lu Hantian would not attack at this juncture. Could it be that there is someone behind this kid? Zhuowen's voice was clear and loud, and everyone in the surroundings naturally heard it clearly. Xu Lingtian also heard it, and his face twitched. He knew that the person behind Zhuowen was most likely an expert who had mastered this terrifying spear intent. And any expert who could master this spear intent was extremely difficult to deal with, so Xu Lingtian was quite cautious at this moment. This kid must be killed first, or else he will be a disaster. Thinking of this, Xu Lingtian's killing intent burst forth, and his right hand suddenly pressed down. The terrifying palm print in the void soared to the extreme, and instantly descended above Zhuowen's head. It only needed a breath's time to completely annihilate Zhuowen. At this moment, Zhuowen's heart was beating extremely fast. His entire body was wrapped in an aura of death. Facing the vast and terrifying palm print above him, he felt for the first time that death was so close to him. Old dog Xu. You want to kill Zhuowen? I'm afraid you are not qualified. Just as the palm print was about to fall and annihilate Zhuowen, a wild and loud voice suddenly resounded in the whole world. Then, an unruly figure appeared in front of the palm print, and similarly struck out with his palm. The surrounding space was distorted and squeezed, and the terrifying palm print in the void was completely annihilated. The palm print was obliterated, and only now did everyone clearly see the mysterious figure that had appeared. This person's head and face were covered in dirt, his hair was disheveled, and his clothes were ragged, causing him to seem like a beggar. However, his eyes that emitted strands of bright light exposed that this person wasn't simple. Who is this person? He actually blocked Xu Lingtian's attack so easily. The three magnates, master of the meteorite, Qin Nai, and Shenyuan Li, frowned slightly, and they were all puzzled about the identity of the old beggar in front of them. It should be known that Xu Lingtian's strength was at least at the peak of the Golden Venerable Realm. If this old beggar could easily block Xu Lingtian's palm print, didn't it mean that this person's strength was not inferior to Xu Lingtian's? Who are you? Xu Lingtian's expression did not look too good. At the same time, he was shocked that this old beggar in front of him could break his palm print. This old beggar who was dressed inelegantly was not simple. Old dog Xu. You are really forgetful. You don't even remember me. Open your dog eyes and look. I am your father, Lu Hantian. In the void, Lu Hantian stared at Xu Lingtian with a gloomy gaze, and his words were sharp and unruly. In the face of Lu Hantian calling him an old dog, even Xu Lingtian felt a little embarrassed. Just as he was about to make a few sarcastic remarks, he heard that this person called himself Lu Hantian, and he was instantly stunned. At the same time, the other experts around the Marquis's mansion were also stunned. Lu Hantian was extremely famous in the prefecture. Even though he had fallen in the inheritance of the Blood Devil, many people still took delight in talking about him. In the end, it was because the Lu Hantian back then was too monstrous. Now, this old beggar called himself Lu Hantian. Naturally, many people were stunned. Some even began to doubt their eyes. Why does Lu Hantian look like a beggar? Is he still that peerless genius? However, the aura on the old beggar's body was indeed terrifying. Although many people were skeptical of the old beggar's words, they did not dare to refute. After all, this was an expert at Xu Lingtian's level. How dare you impersonate Lu Hantian? I think you are courting death. Xu Lingtian's eyes flashed slightly. He snorted coldly and suddenly struck out with his right palm, wanting to crush the old beggar in front of him. Impersonate? Old dog Xu, this lord still needs to impersonate you. Back then, you caused this lord to be trapped in the Blood Devil's territory. If it weren't for a coincidence, this lord would have very likely been alone in the Blood Devil's territory for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, the heavens didn't allow this lord to come out. Lu Hantian sneered. Hearing this, Xu Lingtian's eyes narrowed. Back then, Lu Hantian was trapped in the inheritance of the Blood Devil's territory. However, not many people knew about this matter. Apart from the upper echelons of the 5 superpowers, no one else knew. However, this sloppy beggar before him was eloquent. This caused Xu Lingtian to hesitate. He had never seen this person before, but he was able to speak of what happened back then. In particular, he could see a trace of familiarity in the old beggar's eyes. Could this person really be Lu Hantian? I really didn't think that even the Blood Devil's Nest couldn't kill this guy. Shu Lingtian's face darkened. If this person really was Lu Hantian, then this matter would be difficult to deal with. Lu Hantian's talent was extremely terrifying. Otherwise, he wouldn't have plotted against a junior back then. It was this Lu Hantian's talent that caused his heart to palpitate. Chapter 608. Death. So what if you're really Lu Hantian? Your talent is indeed strong, but in just a short 100 years, what level can your cultivation reach? I'm afraid that peak martial saint is already the limit. The corners of Shu Lingtian's mouth curled up slightly as a cold smile appeared on his face. With a stomp of his foot, an aura that was like that of a primordial beast surged out, causing the surrounding space to collapse and distort inch by inch. His aura was like a rainbow, like that of an emperor. In 100 years, this old man has already taken the final step and reached the Empyrean realm. With my current strength, even the Qing Emperor will probably put me in an important position. When the time comes, I will destroy your house of Marquis Qin and replace it. I'm afraid the Qing Emperor won't care too much. At this point, Shu Lingtian revealed a smug smile. He hadn't touched the house of Marquis Qin for nearly 100 years because he knew the time wasn't right. Now that he had successfully advanced to the celestial venerable realm, such a cultivation level could be considered a powerhouse even in the imperial city county. He would definitely be valued by the Azure Emperor. The Azure Emperor would probably not care too much about a mere county lord. Empyrean realm? Shu Lingtian has actually advanced to the celestial venerable realm. No wonder he was so arrogant and threatened to destroy the house of Marquis Qin. Although Lu Hantian has returned, his strength shouldn't be too strong. It's already very impressive for him to be able to reach the peak of the utmost exalted realm. However, the difference between his cultivation and the current Shu Lingtian is simply too great. Many people were surprised by the appearance of Lu Hantian, but when Shu Lingtian revealed his cultivation of the celestial master realm, they all shook their heads and sighed, thinking that the house of Marquis Qin was doomed. A mere initial stage Empyrean also dares to be cocky in front of your father? Old dog Shu, you're really promising. Who would have thought that Lu Hantian would sneer and also take a step forward? An aura that was even more terrifying than Shu Lingtian's enveloped the entire world and crushed down. Instantly, the world changed color. Lightning flashed, and dark clouds roiled like dragons. Shu Lingtian's aura was actually completely suppressed by Lu Hantian's aura. Instantly, the smile on Shu Lingtian's face froze and his face turned red. Thud thud thud. What was shocking was that Shu Lingtian, who originally had an imposing aura, was actually forced back by Lu Hantian's aura. His face was extremely unsightly. You've also reached the Empyrean realm? Shu Lingtian's face was filled with shock and anger. He discovered that his aura was completely powerless against Lu Hantian's aura. Clearly, Lu Hantian's cultivation was above his. Shu Lingtian naturally knew how difficult it was to reach the Emperor realm. He didn't think that Lu Hantian had reached the Emperor realm, so he was certain that Lu Hantian was definitely above the Empyrean realm. He was probably at the late stage or peak of the Empyrean realm. When he thought that Lu Hantian's cultivation had surpassed his, Shu Lingtian's face sank to the extreme. However, his heart was in turmoil. How did Lu Hantian's cultivation increase so quickly? In just 100 years, he had gone from the ultimate Emperor realm to the peak of the Empyrean realm. This speed was too fast. Old dog Shu, you must be very surprised, right? Although the Blood Demon's land of inheritance is filled with danger, sometimes danger and reward go hand in hand. The energy inside the Blood Demon's land of inheritance is much denser than the outside world. Cultivating inside is simply twice the effort for half the result. Lu Hantian's words rang out again. His tone was full of ridicule, as if he was mocking Shu Lingtian for doing a good thing. Shu Lingtian's eyes were gloomy. Lu Hantian's words were not necessarily wrong. He said indifferently, misfortune and fortune really come hand in hand. Lu Hantian, it's not bad that you're able to reach the Empyrean realm. However, we're both Empyreans. Although your realm is higher than mine, you can't kill me. How about this? The two of us will each take a step back. Moreover, our house of Marquis Baichuan is also willing to compensate you accordingly. As long as you hand over that little bastard behind you, we'll pretend that this matter never happened. Let us prepare for the upcoming war of the 9 counties together. Moreover, if His Highness the Qing Emperor knows that our house of Marquis Qin has produced 2 Empyrean realm experts, I'm afraid that he will take special care of our Muqin County. This will be extremely beneficial to the development of Muqin County. What do you think? Xu Lingtian's eyes flickered. Suddenly, he became amiable and his tone became much gentler, as if he was talking to an old friend whom he had not seen for many years. However, Zhuowen's face changed slightly. Xu Lingtian was really thick-skinned. Just now, he had threatened to destroy the house of Marquis Qin. Now that he saw that Lu Hantian was also a Empyrean realm expert, his face changed faster than the weather. He really had no sense of shame. "Oh, you want me to hand over Zhuowen?" Lu Hantian said coldly with his arms crossed in front of his chest. The corners of his mouth curled up. "Haha. Brother Liu, you also know that this little bastard has killed many people of our house of Marquis Qin. As long as you hand over this little bastard, I can compensate your house of Marquis Qin for your losses. What do you think?" At this moment, Xu Lingtian was quite enthusiastic. He even called Lu Hantian Brother Liu. Even Zhuowen was a little embarrassed by how thick-skinned he was. "Hand over your son of a bitch. Zhuowen is my brother. How can an old dog like you touch him? What else can an old dog like you do besides bullying the weak and fearing the strong? You're simply a disgrace to Muqin County." Lu Hantian cursed with his arms crossed. "You, Lu Hantian, don't go too far. It's better to leave a way out." Xu Lingtian narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "What a noisy old dog. I've long found you an eyesore. Just die for me." Lu Hantian muttered and stepped out into the void. Suddenly, his hair and clothes fluttered. He grabbed the void with his right hand and grabbed a blood spear that was about 10 feet long in his hand. He directly rushed toward Xu Lingtian without caring about elegance. "You asked for it." Xu Lingtian's face was ugly. He stomped his feet, and suddenly, the monstrous sound of flowing water filled the surrounding space. Then, a sea of rivers flowed out from the depths of the void like a huge dragon. There were at least 100 rivers surrounding the area. The 100 rivers Marquis Residence's armor soul, all rivers into the sea. The power of Xu Lingtian's soul armor was much more terrifying than Xu Chang's. Not only were there nearly 100 rivers and seas, but each river was also much bigger than Xu Chang's. "Just in time. I want to see how powerful your all rivers into the sea is." Lu Hantian laughed. He twisted his right hand and the blood spear started to spin. The surging spear intent was like an invisible force that spread out and exploded with a terrifying might. The countless clouds in the sky were swept away and turned into nothingness. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, hundreds of rivers surrounded Lu Hantian's tiny body like a giant dragon. But Lu Hantian was not afraid at all. The blood spear in his hand was like a cunning viper. Every time, it would attack from a tricky angle and break through the attacks of the surrounding rivers. For a time, the two of them were evenly matched in the sky. They were locked in a fierce battle. The aftermath of the battle spread out. The surrounding space collapsed and distorted, turning into countless black holes. Terrifying explosions rang out continuously in the sky. It was as if doomsday had arrived. Below the county, countless top powers were shocked as they looked at the terrifying battle that was taking place in the sky. This was a battle between 2 heavenly sovereigns. Every blow that was thrown out was extremely powerful and it was not something that they could imagine. How terrifying. Worthy of being a battle between Empyrean realm powerhouses. Just the aftershocks that spread out actually gave me a kind of feeling of fear and trepidation. The master of the meteorite, Qin Nai and Shenyuan Li stood together and looked at the shocking battle in the void. Their faces were filled with shock. A battle between heavenly venerables was far beyond their understanding. Lu Nantian and Xu Chang were also looking at the battle in the void nervously. They knew that the battle between Lu Hantian and Xu Lingtian was very important. It would determine the survival of two superforces. They had to be cautious. Ancestor will not be defeated. Now, I have to deal with that little bastard Zhuoan first. He killed so many masters of my 100 River Marquis mansion and even killed Qianliang. He must die. He must die. Taking advantage of the fact that Lu Nanshan's attention was focused on the battle in the void, Xu Chang's eyes flashed and he slowly descended. As he approached Arid Peace Palace, an endless might erupted from him. Jiang He, who was circling around him, was like a viper hunting its prey as he rushed out. Zhuoan, die. No one can live peacefully after killing the people of my 100 River Marquis mansion. You are no exception. Xu Chang shouted as he leaped up. Borrowing Jiang his strength, he instantly arrived above Zhuowen's head. His right palm was like a mountain as he slammed it down. What? Xu Chang, you despicable bastard. The moment Xu Chang's aura erupted, Lu Nantian, who had been paying attention to the battle between Lu Hantian and Xu Lingtian, was startled awake. Lu Nanshan's face was filled with shock and anger as he rushed towards Zhuoan. Unfortunately, it was too late. He was too far away from Xu Chang. It would take him 5 breaths of time to rush over. In such a short time, Xu Chang would be able to kill Zhuoan. Damn it. Even at this time, that old bastard Xu Chang is still thinking about revenge. In the open space, Zhuowen's complexion changed. As he saw Xu Chang's palm approach him, his heart couldn't help but race. Xu Chang was an existence at the peak of the 9-wheel emperor realm. Moreover, by relying on the realization of all rivers to reach the sea, he could even contend with a martial artist of the Xuanzuan realm. Zhuoan wasn't a match for such an existence. The disparity between the two was far too great. No. I can't die. I definitely can't die. I still have a lot of things to do. How can I die here? Shrouded by the fear of death, Zhuoan panicked for the first time. He thought of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding's expectations, and even the promise he made to Mu Chunxue. Everything bound Zhuoan like chains, making it impossible for him to give up. Fat. The terrifying palm arrived in an instant, and the terrifying might crushed down, causing Zhuowen to kneel on one knee. Blood flowed from his knee, and blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. Just the might alone was already so terrifying. If it had landed, Zhuowen would have definitely died. I don't want to die. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.